And it looks like everybody is on Zoom that's supposed to be. So we are good, Commissioner Hill.
All right. Well, I don't have a gavel right now, so I'll bring to order this meeting of the Oregon State Parks Commission. And first, I want to welcome everyone who's joining us via Zoom and in Salem. And I really want to give a warm welcome to Melissa Cribbins and to Betty Izumi, who are our new commissioners. And we're really grateful to have you join us and for your service. So thank you very much. And we do have a lot of public comment later today, which is actually really great. So we should probably get moving along. And I think we should start with introductions first. So I'll go ahead. I'm Liz Hill. I'm the chair of the commission serving from District 2. And we can move along to Commissioner Grasty, who's next on my screen.
Good morning. I'm Steve Grasty. I'm a commissioner on Oregon Parks and Recs Commission, and I'm from Eastern Oregon, and I never remember what district it is. So
they keep changing.
Okay, let's go to Commissioner Dewar.
Hi, I'm Doug Durr, calling from the coast outside of Cannon Beach at rural Clatsop County.
Awesome. And we'll go into the meeting room. Commissioner Berger.
Hi, I'm Vicki Berger. I'm a commissioner from Salem, so that's why I prefer not to be on Zoom and am in the room with staff.
Yes, we're all looking forward to being in person again next time, but the weather, it seems a little crazy right now. And then moving on to the new commissioners. Melissa, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Of course. Good morning, Melissa Cribbins, newly appointed commissioner from District 4, located in Coos Bay. Thank you.
And Betty, welcome.
Hi, I'm Betty Izumi, and I'm the also newly appointed commissioner from Portland in District 3. Thank you.
Welcome.
Cool. Lisa, do we need to do any rounds of introductions of folks in the room just because we're via Zoom, or should we?
I think it'll be easier, just for the record, Lisa Assumption, Director of Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and we'll do legal counsel here, but with the logistics, I think that we'll stop it there.
Yeah, there's a lot on our agenda today. Keep moving.
I'm Steve Shipsky, Department of Justice.
Normally for Melissa and Betty, we do the whole room and welcome everybody, but it's a little logistically challenging here with this.
All right, so the first thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 15th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great, a second from Commissioner Dewar. Any further discussion or comments? Otherwise, I'll move to the question for the adoption of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So those minutes are approved. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any from staff? Are there any changes to the agenda, or is it going to remain the same as what we've received?
Leave it the same to keep it simple since we're hybrid.
Awesome. All right, so I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll also make the motion to approve the agenda for today as was provided to us in writing.
Thanks, Commissioner Grasty. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Berger seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Berger. If no further discussion, the questions on the adoption of the agenda as we've received it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. We'll move forward on the agenda. So next piece on our commission business is the election of a vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
Madam Chair, I hate to be the only one making motions, but I would nominate Commissioner Berger to the position.
What a wonderful choice.
And I hope she'll accept it. And I'm also curious about knowing that I think she and I are short on time on the commission. Does that nomination make sense?
All three of you are going off at the exact same time together.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Dewar. Thank you.
And
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I am happy to accept this. I do understand that my term is limited. I'm happy to serve as long as needed.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your service. And unfortunately, we never want to say goodbye to you guys, but when that time comes, we'll come up with another vice chair to fill that role. But it gives our two new commissioners some time in the next year to see how everything's done. So, all right. So we have a second. Let's move for adoption of having Commissioner Berger serve as the vice chair for our commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. All right. Congratulations, Commissioner Vice Chair, shall I say, Berger. Oh, wonderful. We're moving right along. So next on the agenda, we have public comment, and it sounds like we have quite a few folks who've signed up to provide public comment on a few different issues. One of the issues I think is going to be done later in the agenda under real estate, but for now, I'll pass it over to Chris. It sounds like just due to the way our Wi-Fi is working, we may not be able to bring people up on the screen, but we'll have a timer on the screen and we'll be able to hear folks as they speak. And we'll keep comments to just 3 minutes so we can keep moving along and make sure everybody gets an opportunity to speak today. So Chris, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, Chris Abel, the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Here in Agenda Item 2, this is a general public comment courtesy that we provide at the meetings. It's for things that are not on the agenda. We do have 17 people signed up to speak on 2 issues, neither of which are on your agenda today. One related to Yachats Ridge, which is property on the coast that you heard about at the last meeting, and the other relates to operations of the Tubell State Recreation site down in Southern Oregon on the Rogue River. For those of you who signed up and are here, I'll be calling you in the order that you signed up, but I am clumping here. So everybody who signed up for the Yachats Ridge, you're going to go first. There's just 4 of you there. And then the folks who are here for Tubell will go through those. And within those clumps, it'll be in the order that you signed up. So it's going to seem a little random, but that's how it's running. When I do call you, you'll be able to unmute. You won't be able to start video, I'm sorry, but you'll be able to speak. When you see you're able to unmute, you have to do that. You have to select unmute. Please say your name and where you're from, just for the commissioners so they have some context. You'll see a timer on the screen that'll run for 3 minutes. If you can use less time than that, great. If you get right up to that 3-minute mark and you'll hear a beep, I hope, through your speakers, please try to wrap it up then. Other than that, I'm just going to roll forward. Any questions from the commissioners before we get started? Everybody can hear okay? Great.
Chris,
So,
I appreciate you grouping those just so we know the topic as each speaker starts.
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure. It'd be the easiest thing that I do today. Joanne Kittle, you're going to be first here. Give me a second to get set. Cool. So Joanne, you should see your mic. Give me a second to get the timer up. Okay, Joanne, you can go ahead.
My name is Joanne Cattell. I live at 1356 Highway 101 South, Yachats. I am co-chair of View the Future, which is a 20-year-old all-volunteer 501c3 whose mission is environmental and cultural preservation. We also do recreational projects. All of this is with partnerships. And I'm here to speak about what the locals affectionately call Yachats Ridge, which is presently owned by Manulife Management and Warehouser that Parks has an interest in buying. We have not slowed down. And since our November presentation, we continue to solicit community support through our webpage, Facebook page, and Instagram. And we are continuing to do tours between storms. That includes one tour had the staff member from the Natural Resources Department of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz, and another one had a staff person from U.S. Representative Val Hoyle's office. Everyone's been enthusiastically supportive of this becoming a parkland, and we've received no negative criticism. To date, we've received $120,000 in donations for Yachats Ridge rehabilitation and stewardship needs. On April 21st, co-chair John Thielacker and I will be giving a presentation to the community on our organization and the preservation and future parkland of Yachats Ridge. On Earth Day, we're doing a series of tours of Yachats Ridge. And our conservation committee is researching grant opportunities that we will present to the OPRD staff. We're also working on grant application to hire our first staff person. As an all-volunteer 501c3 and land trust, we're really at capacity, and we need to hire someone to increase our capacity and raise more funds. And also a friend and colleague, Walter Orchard, and I have finished co-authoring a book, and 100% of those proceeds will go to Yachats to view the future and to support the preservation of Yachats Ridge. We're going to continue to be every 2 months on the commissioner meetings with letters of support, because we want to convey to the commissioners that our community support is solid and it will never fizzle. And if there's anything else we can do for supporting Parks acquisition of Yachats Ridge, we want to do that as an entire community. Thank you for listening to me today. And if you have any questions, just send them my way. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
All right. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you so much for that tour in November for the commissioners. It was really wonderful to get up on that ridge and see what a special piece of land you guys have there. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, great. John Ayer, you're next. I'm sorry, I'm going to be mispronouncing names all day, but here you go, John.
Good morning. My name is John Ayer. I'm a 5-year full-time resident of Yachats. My off-agenda remarks are concerned with Yachats Ridge, your continued heartfelt interest in its acquisition, and our community's resolve towards that end. Have no doubt that the residents of Yachats and the surrounding area are committed to seeing these 950 acres placed into public stewardship for conservation and appropriate dispersed recreational opportunities. Actually, acquisition might be but a one-time chance to realize a forever legacy. Your tours of Yachats Ridge and subsequent briefings have raised your awareness of the natural resource, social, and economic benefits to be gained. No need for me to reiterate. But I do want to use this time to focus your attention on 2 recent announcements that have real potential for advancing the environmental work needed on Yachats Ridge. In December this past year, Region 6 of the U.S. Forest Service published its intent to develop a Northwest Forest Plan amendment targeting 5 focus areas: wildfire resilience, climate change adaptation, tribal inclusion, sustainable communities, and conservation of old-growth ecosystems and biodiversity. Couple this announcement with that of the Siuslaw National Forest, which has just signed an agreement with the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw to give the Confederation a greater active role in forest-wide stewardship. The timing could not be more fortuitous. Just think about it. Acquiring Yachats Ridge would allow OPRD and its partners to align and complement management planning for Yachats Ridge with those of the Forest Service on a fresh look landscape scale. Imagine the possibilities that could flow from such cooperation and participation. Lastly, some of the commissioners might be asking if supporters of Yachats Ridge have staying power. Will their support remain high through all the challenge and process ahead? My response is a resounding yes. As the point organization, View the Future is blessed with strong and deep leadership that has resident trust and confidence. Yachats has a long history of protecting its natural resources. We are in this for the long haul. OPRD should have full faith and confidence moving forward with View the Future and the village community of Yachats in acquiring Yachats Ridge. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Ayer. Thank you for being here today and expressing your heartfelt comments on Yachats Ridge.
Thank you. This is going to be awful. My pronunciation, I mean, Radomski, Hui Radomski.
Thank you, Chris. Wait. Good morning, Chair Hill, members of the commission. Sorry, okay, here we go. Good morning, Chair Hill, members of the commission. I am Hui Radomski. I am based in Newport and I work for the Department of Land Conservation and Development as the South Coast Regional Representative. I own property in the Yachats watershed. I am a member of the Yachats community. I am also on the board of View the Future. Today, in my capacity as the View the Future board member, I'm asking the commission to support acquisition of Yachats Ridge, a 950-acre piece of land that overlooks the city of Yachats. I have been a resident of Lincoln County since 2012. I moved here to live a life on the Oregon coast and to do coastal work. My passion is coastal land use, ecosystems, and communities. Prior to joining DLCD, I worked as a county planner for Lincoln County. Less than 2 years ago, I was honored to be asked by Joanne Cattell to join her board, which I did promptly. I joined the board to help with the Yachats Ridge project. John is correct about the immense and growing community support for this project. Of the benefits we see in Yachats Ridge in providing the South Lincoln County community, I am particularly excited about the potential of it serving as an emergency assembly area for the tsunami, and I would love to help with the planning of that. The educational value of Yachats Ridge cannot be overstated. My 2 young children and I have been up to Yachats Ridge. The children had fun on their visit climbing on rocks and were intrigued to be able to see Yachats from high up. I didn't have time to tell them all about land uses and watersheds and natural resource stewardship and local history and the tsunami and plate tectonics. But I hope with the acquisition and development of the property, we all will have that opportunity. My position with DLCD includes being a part of the federal-state partnership known as the Oregon Coastal Management Program. Through NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there currently are acquisition dollars available to secure properties like Yachats Ridge that provide a multitude of benefits for coastal ecosystems and communities and resilience. View the Future is currently scoping out these acquisition funding opportunities and other funding opportunities. Thank you for the time to speak. Please support the acquisition of Yachats Ridge.
Well, thank you, Mr. Radomski.
Lauren Dickinson, pardon me. Doing okay there, Lauren? We
Yep.
can't hear you yet. Okay.
Yeah, all right. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I didn't see my name come up on the screen. My name is Lauren Dickinson. I'm a resident of Yachats since full-time since 2014. I am also a member of the City Planning Commission and a member of the group called Yachats Trails Leadership. And Yachats Trails, for those of you that don't know, maintains and creates trails in and around the Yachats area. Having been here for a while, have hiked the Yachats Ridge many times. I'm very familiar with the parcel, as others have indicated, and with your tours. I think everybody knows what a beautiful piece of property is, has beautiful views and a lot of potential for public use. I personally feel, with my experience on the Planning Commission and other venues, that the best use for this property is accessibility and use by the public. And as such, I recommend acquisition if possible, so that this beautiful piece of property can be maintained for public use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson, for your comment.
All right, thank you. We are moving on to people who asked to speak about Tubel. Anne, you are up first.
Hello, I'm Ann Botzer, and I'm privileged to live on the Rogue River upstream from Tubel State Park. Thank you so much for giving me your time. From the oral tradition of Indigenous people, we know that the Rogue River has played a life-sustaining role in our valley for 10,000 years. It has provided water, food, transportation, and recreation. It's been a magnet for those yearning for peace, quiet, and spiritual renewal. The river has been a safe home for spawning salmon and thriving trout. A bountiful variety of birds has built nests along its banks. Mammals like otter and beaver call it home. Deer, elk, and bear rely on it. I've been a beneficiary of all this. My husband and I grew up in Medford, and we both learned to fish at Tubel State Park. We have birthday parties and family reunions there. But now all this has changed. You have altered the essential life-sustaining role this iconic waterway has played for many millennia. Little by little, the Upper Rogue River has become an amusement park ride. What used to be a multi-use area is now single-use. It's only safe for one commercial company with its 3 boats that roar up and down every 20 minutes all summer long. These tour boats are wrecking portions of the riparian zone with their powerful wakes, disrupting salmon and steelhead habitat, and threatening the safety of all the traditional park and river users. Why, with your beautiful mission statement that promises to provide and protect, would you be a party to this? Your mission statement says nothing about providing business enterprise zones, but just wait until the business community finds out they can advertise on huge billboards and on the internet that they are located in a state park. Any business can erect structures in our parks as huge as the 2 boat loading ramps that the tour boat company put in the river every day last summer, as long as these structures are portable so they can haul them out of the park each evening. No cash can change hands, but businesses just need to tell their customers to use their cell phones and pay online. One advantage to businesses is they do not have to pay to rent space or lease land for parking. State Parks provides this for them. If our parks become places where noisy, dangerous businesses can flourish, what is the future of state parks in Oregon? The next destructive tour boat season starts May 1st. Please put a stop to this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being here today, Ms. Botzer. And we also received your written comments for the letter to the editor that you submitted as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Gretchen Osterhout.
Hello. I'm Gretchen Osterhout. My family has lived here for 4 generations, and I'm near Eagle Point. My family and I are dismayed at the commercial jet boat company that's recently been operating out of Tubel. For many years, I've walked my dog and gone bird watching there almost daily, but I've stopped going when the commercial tour boats are operating. Other people are going to speak about the ecological and legal issues, so I'm just going to talk about 2 main concerns of mine. First is that allowing one activity that impacts or deters other activities is not fair. If I hike, walk my dog go bird watching, fish, wade, swim, or go rafting, or just enjoy a quiet picnic in a beautiful setting, as we and other park visitors have done for decades, it doesn't significantly impact others. Unfortunately, that's not true of the jet boats. They're extremely noisy. And because they travel too fast, they endanger anglers, rafters, and swimmers. So either the jet boats can dominate the park and the river, or everyone else can continue to enjoy our historic activities there. Unfortunately, on this one stretch of the river, we can't have both. That's just not fair. Secondly, the tour boat operator's use of the park is a commercial enterprise that is clearly not a traditional use of the park as required by Oregon administrative rules. If it's okay for such an obnoxious commercial enterprise to disrupt other people's enjoyment of our public park, then what's to say that other activities incompatible with the park's purpose would be allowable? Motorcycle rallies, skeet shooting, loud music events, for example. Please protect this wonderful resource for the continued enjoyment of the majority of people who do not want such commercial enterprises to wreck our experiences there. Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in.
Thank you, Ms. Osterhout.
All right, thank you. John Enders.
Am I hearable?
You are, yes.
Sure are.
Good, good. Okay. Speaking from afar. Commissioners, my name is John Enders. I was born in Medford. I reside in Talent. Thank you for the opportunity to address an issue of great importance to many of us in the Rogue Valley. I'm 71 years old and have been using the Upper Rogue River for recreational purposes since well before the river was dammed to create Lost Creek Lake. I've lived and worked outside the area and returned to raise my children here because of family roots and the area's pristine natural beauty. My granddaughter Hope, now 21, is a 7th generation Oregonian. I strongly urge the commission to do whatever is required to deny access to jet boats in and around Tuvell State Park on the Upper Rogue for several reasons. To protect recreational users of the park and the river now and for generations to come. That includes drift boaters, picnickers, bird watchers, rafters, fishers, swimmers, kayakers, etc. To honor the pristine nature of the river and its natural resources, and to follow existing state laws and regulations that are designed to protect these assets, the park and the river, for the community for generations to come. A private for-profit jet boat company should never have been allowed to have access to the area and to bring hundreds of customers along with it. We all know that jet boats pollute, are horribly noisy, fast, powerful, and dangerous, and they ruin the experience of the park and river for traditional recreational users. Those who argue that the jet boat operator and its customers are no different than other regular users are mistaken. They're not. They're a corporation with little or no interest in whether they ruin the experience for others. Past decisions have allowed the jet boat operator to violate rules and laws. The operator claims that everyone has a right to recreate on the Upper Rogue. Well, that's not my opinion. There are those who recreate for their personal pleasure and enjoyment, and there are those who provide opportunities for others to recreate so they can make money. Allowing someone to recreate while endangering others is akin to allowing horseback riders to use the interstate because it's fun. I don't understand why this was ever allowed to happen, and I urge you strongly to do whatever is necessary to right this wrong. Thank you very much. 3 minutes.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Enders, for those comments. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa James.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Lisa James. By your previous comments, I would guess that you have received my written comments I submitted while in Cuba last week. That was quite an undertaking. But I also have lived on the Upper Rogue River for more than 30 years. I'm an Eagle Point High School graduate, and we spent many days in the last 50 years of my life at Tuville State Park. I drive by it every day, and I witness what is going on. I go there for lunches. We took the sheriff there. And so I want to agree with everybody who's spoken so far. I want to ask the board if any of you have ever been to Tuville State Park. Have you been on the Upper Rogue River, and do you understand the propulsion of jet boats? Because jet boats require huge propulsion from giant engines that stir up the vegetation. They are loud, noisy, and stinky. And you have allowed them to place these ramps in Tuville State Park in the place that is the only safe eddy for family swimming. It has been for generations. You spent our tax dollars to move the boat ramp for loading and unloading 200 feet downriver within the park to preserve this spot for community picnicking and swimming, and then allow these jet boats to put their ramps right in the middle of their swimming hole and load and unload all day long, spin their boats in circles, and create giant wakes and disrupt and inhibit use by the public that has gone on for my lifetime, and I'm sure many more. We do not believe it is acceptable. We believe that we have complained about this for 2 years, and you allowed a conditional use permit, or however you phrased it, to have a trial. You were receiving at one point, as I understand from questioning many of your staff, $1 per ticket. And so I was first told that was $30,000 in revenue, not accounting for the parking. But then I was told that was for 2 years. So that's $15,000 a year. If you filled every one of their largest 25-seater boats, that would be 600 boat trips. But we know they're not all full and they're not all 25 seats. So we know that each season we have, 700-800 boat trips coming out of Tuville State Park now without the revenue after you discontinued the thing. So I wanted to address this because it is unmitigated. Nobody's paying attention to how he's growing bigger, more frequent, and the impacts that are happening. So we think you have a responsibility to address this commercial venture inside the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James, and thank you for your comments and for keeping it to 3 minutes. And we appreciate your words. So thank you.
Thank you. Bob Hunter.
Hello, Chair Hill, Commissioners. My name is Bob Hunter. I live in Jacksonville, Oregon. I've recreated at Tuville State Park for over 45 years. It was the first place I fished when I moved to the Rogue Valley in 1978. And I am deeply saddened and extremely disappointed by the Oregon State Park and Recreation Department's support for and facilitation of the use of the park for one commercial jet boat tour business at the expense of the park users, park resources, and in general, the public interest. I did submit a letter. I hope you will spend the time to read it and look at the pictures I provided with it. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. Use of jet boat operations on the park started as a pilot project by the parks, which was discontinued because of the negative feedback parks received, and parks determined it was not a suitable fit for the park. Yet, lo and behold, sometime thereafter, parks issues a special use permit to allow the commercial jet boat operations at Tuville State Park without public input. And basically had to make some findings for that special use permit that aren't supportable by the facts and in fact violate the criteria that this commission has set forth in Oregon administrative rules to protect the public from basically non-traditional uses of our park lands. In the letter, I kind of outlined the criteria in more detail. I won't read that here because time is limited. But a number of concerned citizens raised issues with that with parks and even hired an attorney. The special use permit wasn't continued. There was a move to get a concession that wasn't granted because of the public outcry over that. But instead, parks then came up with the idea that, well, it's on Division of State Lands land. We don't have jurisdiction, can't do anything about it. That, of course, proved to be a false assumption. Things could have been done there anyhow to have prevented it. I see I have very little time. What I want to really dwell on is basically a conditional use permit or a special use permit is required under Oregon administrative rules and should not be granted because it would violate the criteria for that. Parks now has come up with the idea that the jet boat use is like any other regular park user. And that's without getting into it, but I, as a park user, use the regular boat ramp. I don't put in my own private dock. I don't have hundreds of customers coming. I see my time's running out, but I outline why I think Parks has violated its own rules, Oregon administrative rules, and Oregon statutes. And I hope that the commission will give some direction to park staff in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter, and thank you for your written comments as well.
Thank you. Rania Hadad.
Yes, good morning. You said my name perfectly. Thank you, Chris. One of my concerns is the negative impacts Rogue Jet Boat Adventures is having on the Rogue River users within Tuville Park premises. In 2016, OPRD terminated a one-year pilot project with RJBA, and OPRD indicated they didn't want to pursue a new agreement. Director assumptions, and I quote, because it conflicts with a portion of the 300,000 plus other visitors who already enjoy access to the Rogue River. In 22, OPRD did a survey about Tuville. The majority of respondents had concerns over their safety and or inability to enjoy the traditional park activities. Furthermore, in the 90s, OPRD, along with other agencies, moved the public boat launch downstream, away from the most popular swimming hole in the park. One of the reasons expressed is the swimmers' safety. People have been swimming in this well-established section for over 50 years. Many years ago, park staff placed a row of parking placards that reads, swim, beach, and picnic parking only. In 22, park staff roped off a small area of the swimming hole, trying to contain the swimmers. Ironically, in past years, RJBA has been placing their 2 boat ramps in the swimming hole. To me, this is an example of many tragic things. Squeezing out some park users at the expense of another, violating multiple OAR and ORS sections. And of course, it's a big safety concern. Commissioners and Director, I am bringing this to your attention. Some reasons why you may be hearing this for the first time could be that some park staff aren't aware of regulations, communication breakdown, or the situation is being ignored. As it certainly appears, this business is getting preferential treatment. In spite of what's written on the Tuville homepage that says they are allowed to use the park just like any other member of the public. which appears, again, contradictory to what has actually been occurring. I am requesting that you require RJBA to immediately cease loading and unloading of the tour boats in and around the designated swimming area, and instead use the public boat ramp as all other park users, commercial and private, must do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hadad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I went over.
You're okay. Thank you for wrapping it up quickly. We appreciate that.
Dale Day. Dale, if you're speaking, you need to actively unmute.
Yes,
There
good
you go.
morning.
Hi.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dale Day. I'm the conservation chairman of the Rogue Fly Fishers. I represent 160 members of the Rogue Fly Fishers who have worked tirelessly for the last 50 years to protect the Rogue River from unwanted threats from ill-advised decisions made by individuals, commercial interests, and agencies. We would gladly submit any interested parties our extensive resume of accomplishments on protecting the Rogue River. Our members and our organization are responsible for the largest dam removal projects in the state of Oregon, which include the Elk Creek Dam, Gold Hill Dam, Gold Ray Dam, Savage Rapids Dam, and a dam on Bear Creek. We have requested the governor have a public meeting in Southern Oregon with the Marine Board, ODFW, State Parks Commission to discuss motorized watercraft in the upper river. This matter is culturally important to the fishery and to the economy of Southern Oregon. The Rogue River, and it's vitally important to stop all activities that are harmful to the wild coho salmon, spring Chinook salmon, summer steelhead, half-pounder salmon, cutthroat, and rainbow trout. The Rogue River coho salmon was listed as a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act in 1997. The southern range of the spring Chinook salmon is currently under petition with NOAA Fisheries and the National Fish and Wildlife Agencies by the Native Fish Society, and the decision is expected in the March of this year. The southern resident orcas were listed by the state of Oregon as an endangered species a few weeks ago in February, following British Columbia, Washington State, Oregon, the governments of Canada, and the United States. The spring Chinook salmon is an important food source for the orcas. The Rogue River coho, spring Chinook salmon, summer steelhead, half-pounder steelhead, cutthroat, resident rainbow trout populations are at a critical stage because of motorized watercraft disrupting their life cycle. The attached data from 2022 to 2023 of the ODFW park seine, which they net the river 3 miles up from the ocean, reveals how critically low the fish populations are in the Rogue River. This data includes the fisheries of the Illinois River, Applegate River, Bear Creek, Elk Creek, Butte Creek, and its tributaries. These fish are residents or sea run that spend from June until last fall, till the fall rains arrive in the tributaries. The exception is the spring Chinook salmon, which uses the river as their spawning ground. This is important. Motorized traffic creates acoustic and hydraulic pollution that causes undue stress to the fish and aquatic insects by emitting 1,400 to 1,800 pounds of thrust while pumping 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water per minute at 60 to 180 pounds per square inch. Careful consideration should be given to the fact that spawning beds that are full of eggs and juvenile fish ability to survive the strong hydraulic pressure caused by these watercraft. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Day. And I do understand that there will be a kitchen table discussion with ODFW, OPRD, and the Marine Board to discuss some of these issues. I don't know, Lisa or Chris, if there's anything that you can provide on that at this point, but
Yeah, I think let's wrap up the rest of the public comment on this, and then we'll provide an update as to next steps with Oregon Kitchen Table.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Francis Oyung.
She's the Rogue River keeper.
Hi, my name is Francis O'Young, and I am the Rogue Riverkeeper Program Manager. Rogue Riverkeeper is a program of the Klamath-Siskiyou Wildland Center, a nonprofit conservation organization based in Ashland, Oregon, with 4,500 members. I'm a 32-year resident of Jackson County, and I recreate on the Rogue River and use Oregon state parks and other public lands. As Rogue Riverkeeper, my primary concern is protecting water quality and the aquatic habitats of the Rogue. Many people ahead of me have spoken well on some of our shared concerns. I will say, though, that the section of the Rogue River around Tuvell State Recreation Site is characterized by a shallower and narrower river channel than further downstream. Intensive activities like high-volume commercial jet boat operations have a cumulative impact on the river, as well as impacting other users. The Rogue River has a high ecological value and is one of the remaining strongholds of native fish on the West Coast, yet it is under threat by the numerous impacts from human activities throughout the basin. It may seem that any one impact is not significant, but that's how we have now gotten to the place where native fish are struggling to maintain their populations in the Rogue. I request that the Commission consider the impacts of allowing the Tuvell Recreation Site to be continued to be monopolized by a single high-volume commercial jet boat operation. As a person who utilizes the park in this section of river for quiet recreation, the impact of the volume and size of boats by the operator at the Tuvell site makes this section of the river unwelcoming to quiet recreation users. I believe that the operation of a commercial jet boat tour operation out of Tuvell Recreation Site is not a good fit for this section of the Rogue River. For OPRD to allow this one business to operate in this way at Tuvell facilitates an activity with a high impact on the environment and creates conflicts with other users. The large volume commercial jet boat business is not a regular park user, and management and regulation of park users who have a larger impact on state park needs to be addressed. And as Chair Hill mentioned, I understand that OPRD and other agencies will be engaging with Oregon's Kitchen Table on community conversation so residents and visitors can share their values and beliefs and expectations. I'm concerned that there will be an investment by individuals and agencies on this process that will produce a report that does not result in resolution of this conflict and does not address the impacts and threats to the aquatic ecosystem. It's vital that the jurisdictional pathway or process be established to address current conflicts, as well as future concerns, such as the rise of mini jet boats on the Rogue or the illegal prop dredging. As we face climate change, there's many impacts, and I hope that as a participant in Oregon's Kitchen Table conversations, OPRD will have a large role to play on how this all resolves and in setting a path forward in the management of future impacts. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the Oregon Kitchen Table process.
Thank you, Ms. Oyung.
Thank you. Don Blazer.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Great. Okay. Hey, commissioners, I'm Don Blazer, and I've lived on the Rogue since 1973. Enjoyed the river for over 50 years. I own a jet boat, but I've never used it on the upper Rogue, a stretch of river running 25 miles from Table Rock Road upstream to Coal River's hatchery. There have been an informal agreement amongst guides and jet boat owners to stay off this upper Rogue. In the summer of 2017, while rafting, I witnessed a jet boat run over the top of a swimmer near Tuvell Park. The jet never saw the kid, but the kid saw the jet and dove underwater. I reported the near miss to the sheriff's office when I got off the river. I then learned there was no law regarding jets on the Rogue and no report was taken. I've been bothered by this incident since the day I witnessed it. Since the inception of commercial tour boat company, the upper Rogue changed. There's now significant public safety concern. The upper Rogue is too small and often too shallow to safely accommodate jet boats and other river users simultaneously. A jet boat has limited navigation in many narrow channels and can't safely maneuver in these areas. There are many blind spots on the Upper Rogue and many places where jet boats must travel at high speed to navigate. Adding a jet boat traffic to the Upper Rogue is a recipe for a tragic accident. The wakes of these boats create safety hazards to people floating, swimming, or fishing the river. Jet wakes can swamp an inflatable raft, flip a kayak, knock over people wading in the river. Individual jet boat use can be expected to increase as the population grows, and now with the advent of mini jet boats that can go anywhere, they've already zipping up and down the road. There's also nothing to prevent a commercial tour boat operation operating in Shady Cove area or any other launch site, as they have now are operating out of Tubell Park. In addition to and related to safety issues, user conflicts are created by jet boat operations. The Upper Rogue has traditionally been used by drift boat fishermen, fishing guides, bank fishermen, rafters, other inflatables, and recreationalists. Jet boat operations in the Upper Rogue are incompatible with these uses. From the commercial tour boat operations out of Tubell Park, we see the jet boats push other users off the river over safety concerns, navigational pathways, and wakes they create. The question I have is, why do we have 5-mile-per-hour rules to protect other boats and swimmers in every lake, but not on the river? Businesses of guides who operate or operate in the section of the river now dominated by jet boat tours. If tour boat and jet boats were allowed to increase throughout the Upper Rogue, this would curtail the ability of guides. Lastly, no regulation on jet boat use are in place protecting spawning salmon or salmon nests, which are vulnerable to turbulence created by the jet boat wakes. The Upper River is critical for spawning area for Chinook wakes, and hydraulic turbulence of these boats dislodge sediment from the banks and riverbeds. Much of the Upper Rogue economy relies on the recreation and tourism. The increase in these high-powered watercraft used in the Upper Rogue significantly impacts the rafting, guiding, fishing business. The restrictions I seek would protect these businesses, aquatourism, but most of all, the public fatality like the one I almost witnessed in 2017. I hope there's a chance to intervene.
Thank you, Mr. Blazer.
Thank you. Sorry I went over.
You're okay. Thank you for trying to wrap it up quickly.
Thank you, Don. David Tourzan.
Yeah, hi. My name is David Tourzan. I'm a public school teacher in the Rogue Valley here, and I've been a user of the river for over 30 years. Done almost every section of it, and I really appreciate the work and collaboration of all those who have helped to get it undammed. It's definitely a crown jewel of rivers on the West Coast, if not the whole world. Thank you to the commissioners and to Chair Hill for taking the time to hear us. I think most of my concerns have been addressed, but I just want to make it kind of personal. I taught my kids how to fish and how to float on this section of the Rogue. It's one of the mellowest sections from Dodge Bridge down to Tubell, just class 1 and 2. It's very safe. At least it used to be very safe. We've done it in kayaks, rafts, stand-up paddle boards. I mean, you could practically do it on a boogie board. It's just one of the greatest sections of the river for teaching people and first-timers. Unfortunately, I took my friend Mike out there, and it was his first time on the river, and he basically got capsized by a wake. We don't take cameras out there, so we don't have evidence to show it. But we were on the side just sitting in our rafts and our kayaks, and the boat just didn't slow down at all. Rogue Jet Boat Adventures, they try to slow down sometimes, but sometimes they just don't. They ruin fishing holes. They make people capsize. And another time, my children and I, they've been doing it since they were 5 years old. They're pretty good with a kayak, but there's some narrow sections in there that are blind corners, and you just can't see the jet boat coming. You can hear it, but he doesn't know you're there. So he comes around the corner, and you come around the corner, and you're both in the middle of a rapid, and you're supposed to make way for him. And that's not easy for a kid to get over into an eddy with a jet boat flying by. He slows down, obviously, in those situations, but it's just not a section of the river that's safe to accommodate all those different users. I've taken my 80-year-old parents down this section of the river. It is a fantastic section, and it's been ruined. I don't feel safe taking my kids or my parents down there anymore. This is not about, riverfront property people wanting to protect themselves. Of course, yes, my pump has gotten clogged so many times. I'm losing trees. I see the spawning grounds getting ruined. I see the bank erosion, but it's not about that. We've been sharing this river for, like someone said, 10,000 years. This is the jugular vein of our region, according to native traditions. So I'm really thankful that, we can be the voice of the voiceless, because we are witnessing destruction of our children's future. And it's not something that we should just stand by and watch happen. So please do what you can. Use your commission powers and whatever communication and bureaucracy that you guys can set up, because it's not right for him to have mounting docks below the high water mark. And his placards and signs that he puts in the public right of way, he doesn't have a permit for those either. So there's so many levels that you could stop this, and I'd like you to do it before somebody gets hurt or killed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Tarzan.
Thank you. Jim Andress.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay. Do I hit start? Okay.
Oh, I can do that for you.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Jim Andress, and I live in the Rogue Valley. Dear commissioners, thank you for your time today. I am concerned with the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department's extended courtship of a sole commercial jet boat company by allowing it to continually operate out of Tuvel, despite ending the pilot program in 2015 after receiving substantial negative public comment and acknowledging the business was not a good fit for the park. According to a Statesman Journal article published in October of the same year, comments were 3-1 against the tour boats and included the following quote from OPRD South Central District Manager Ross Keys. While testimonials from your customers showed their experience was fun, comments from concerned people in the park and on the river close to Tuvel led us to decide against continuing the project at this time. Despite pulling the pilot project, acknowledging public concerns, and stating that we have no issues walking away if it's not working, OPRD pursued this relationship by then writing a 3-year special use permit and considered granting a concession, ultimately denying it last February, citing discomfort in the community about high-speed use in this stretch of the Rogue River as a major concern. Yet tour boats operated out of Tuvel as usual in 2023, only this time without a permit. Parks justified this by stating that they were the upland owner and jurisdiction below the high water mark fell to DSL's responsibility. This proved false. Parks later admitted, not only does our property line go to the center of the river, we're well within our rights to say no. High water or not, you can't operate there. Not surprisingly, the boats ran the remainder of the season after Parks required pulling seasonal docks from a popular swimming area and allowed wheeling temporary docks daily across park property into that same popular swimming area. Since 2015, the public has expressed valid safety concerns and environmental impacts as a result of 1,600 horsepower running from Upper Rogue Memorial Day through Labor Day. Last June, a poll conducted by the Rogue Valley Times showed 70% of responders viewed the commercial jet boats operating out of Tuvel as a danger to other river users. OPRD has acknowledged these concerns, shelved permits due to them, stated they decide who can or can't operate in the park, yet have allowed and continue to allow the singular business to operate out of Tuvel at the expense of all other user groups. I humbly ask that you provide guidance to OPRD staff on this issue, according to public outreach, comments, and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andress.
Thank you. Tim Gilman.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. My name is Tim Gilman. I live on the Rogue River about a mile south of Shady Cove Bridge. I've been rafting and fishing the river for 50 years and use all the parks from Tuvel all the way north. Our family, kids, grandkids, we don't use Tuvel anymore. It's too noisy, confusing, and potentially dangerous. We've moved our activity upriver. But the issue at Tuville has metastasized. We see jet boats putting in at Dodge Bridge Park, Takelma, and they're making their way all the way up to the Shady Cove Park. We see one-person boats, two-person boats, and now full-on ski boats. They're taking a joyride to come up the river, weaving at high speeds through the fishing holes, through the spawning beds, and as been mentioned before, that doesn't do the banks any good. They found a frequent nice place they like to go to, which is the Mexican restaurant. So they go up there, eat and drink. We got pictures of their boats parked there. And we see them coming up 2, 3 at a time and coming back a few hours later. We see them putting rafters, kayakers in danger and interfering with the boat and bank fishermen. And this is also becoming contentious. My friend saw a video of these guys flipping off a bunch of people at, I believe it was Dodge Bridge Park. There's spots on the river where only one vessel can get through at a time. And if it's a jet boat versus a raft or a drift boat, we know who the loser's going to be. I think they're going to look for new places to go too. They're going to go north from Shady Cove up to Rogue Elk Park, Casey Park, and this is where families go to swim, relax, and there's a lot of anglers there too. And on the way, they're going to find the Sunset Market, which is heavily frequented by rafters. They've stopped there to eat and drink. There's a concession there. Raft rentals, guided fishing, and tourists are a significant part of the Shady Cove economy, and this is a conflict. I can't help but to think, since the public has made it clear that this is an issue with jet boats on the river in general, if somebody gets hurt, are they going to look to the state, since the state's clearly aware of this now, as having some sort of liability? Jet boats just aren't suited for this, and there's no reason to allow this to continue. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and the ability to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman, for being here.
Thank you. That I have one more name on my list, Robert Andrews, that I do not see in the attendee roster here. So I'm going to assume that Robert, if you're listening on YouTube or what have you, you can always send us something in writing. We'll get it to the commission. That exhausts the list, Chair Hill. We do have one more person signed up for comment, Larry Silverthorne, on agenda item 5C. That's by Charlie, related to Brian Booth acquisition. But other than that, we are finished.
Well, wonderful. And again, thank you to everybody who made time out of their schedules to provide public comment on both Yachats and Tuville today. I guess I'll turn it over to Director Sumption to talk a little bit about what's going on with Tuville moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you all. Chris, I'm actually gonna move over to you to have you provide a brief update on our efforts with the Oregon Kitchen Table. As you can imagine, this gets very complex. There are a lot of different jurisdictional, like you heard in comments, there is the access at the park, and then there is the river use with DSL, and then there is Brain Board for what happens on the river, and there's also the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we have been working tirelessly trying to bring everyone together to have this community conversation. So I'll let Chris provide you an update of our latest efforts and the timeline that we're going to be having Oregon Kitchen Table come together and facilitate a community conversation and bring recommendations back to us. Hopefully I gave you time to pull up the stuff, Chris. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Director Sumption, Chair Hill, members of the Commission, Chris Havo, the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. As you've heard, people have a lot of value for this area of the road. We have a long presence as a recreation provider with state parks along the river, and foresee that, you know, as far into the future as people need parks, we want to be there for them. But it's not always easy to see how to balance all the kinds of use that a park is capable of providing. And as you've heard, there are people who feel like there are limits to the capabilities of a park, and that when you go beyond those limits, you get out of balance. We know that even if we run the park perfectly, which is a lofty goal, it doesn't get to the heart of the issue here. And I think you heard in several of the speakers who, like, within their 3 minutes, managed to pack in a lot of content, and I really appreciate that there is a larger issue here. I think it can lead to the impression that you're just getting bounced from agency to agency, and that's because Oregon divides responsibility among agencies according to their jurisdictions. Under Lisa's leadership, getting together with the Marine Board and the Department of Fish and Wildlife and Department of State Lands, we have contracted with Oregon's Kitchen Table. We've held our preliminary meetings with them to understand the scope from the agency perspective of the issues, knowing that that is just a starting point. Our perspectives tend to be bound by our authorities and our missions. And getting work across agency boundaries to look at the river for the resource that it is, which doesn't have boundaries on it, is not easy, even for us. You know, we pride ourselves on listening and trying to find ways to thread needles, but we have blinders just like everybody else does. We just don't always recognize them. Oregon's Kitchen Table's gift is to try and dissolve those boundaries, talk to people about values and beliefs and needs and perspectives, even if you as a member of the community haven't always felt welcome expressing those things. Finding a way to launch a conversation. It sounds easy. It sounds like all you have to do is hold a meeting and open a door, which is what we thought we needed to do about last fall. But it was pretty quick as we sat down and tried to figure out exactly what that looked like, that we needed help. So Oregon's Kitchen Tables process involves community engagement at a deep level, reaching voices that typically are excluded from the decision-making process at all levels of government. And the prep work is now through April, looking at April, May, and June to actually get out and hold more public opportunities for engagement, and then resulting in a report back of the findings back to us in July. What I expect to come from that is insight and intelligence for every agency that's affected here, so that we can look at policies, rules, procedures to try and find a way to do the right thing for the river and its many beneficiaries. Don't expect that to be easy. I expect it still to be finding our way forward slowly, one step at a time. In the meantime, looking at park operations to look for those improvements that we can make even before getting into this process. Generally involves things like understanding our rules and where we've been applying them well and where we haven't, making sure that we understand how to operate the undesignated swimming area there and the boat ramp. Our park staff on the ground, Nathan Sable that you've heard of, and District Manager Danny Padilla, are fully engaged on that and just trying to find their way forward. So we're grateful that Oregon's Kitchen's Table had the capacity to come in and help, and happy that the other agencies are joining us along for that ride. We just look forward to opening our minds up a bit more to what the possibilities are for the future. In many ways, this is about managing change and managing growth in an area of the river that's seen it more than its fair share of that since the removal of the Gold Ray Dam. Lisa, if I miss anything in there that's important, feel free to jump in, please.
No, I think you captured everything beautifully. I have the timeline. We can send the timeline to the commissioner, so that way when we are doing the community engagement conversations in May and June, if you want to or willing to listen in or to show up in person and come down and actually see what's going on here in the community, you are invited to do that with us. And I just thank the other agencies for the willingness. Sometimes this, like Chris mentioned, it is easier to say, well, that's a DSL problem, or that's an ODFW problem, or Marine Board do this. It has been it hasn't been easy, even as agencies, to get everybody to get in the same room and commit to having these conversations, because if one of us changes something, it's going to impact the other. And so we're going to have to do this a little more aligned and united. So it will take time and patience, and we hear you. We know that you're frustrated. We know that it doesn't seem like anybody's listening, but I just want to assure you that we are, and we will continue to listen and figure out how we can navigate this together. Commissioner Berger.
Could we have a little more history of how we got here in terms of the specific commercial operation?
Yeah, that's a good point.
There was history
Yes.
brought forward by some of the citizens, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I kind of would like an agency. I understand we have a long-term problem on the Rogue, and we're looking for long-term solutions that are bigger than our heritage. What is it? A recreation site? It isn't even a park, is it?
It's a park.
Is it a park? And I guess I want to know where we stand as an agency, what we've done, and where we are, and why we're there.
Chair Hill, Commissioner Berger, that's an excellent point. Making a note here that we put together an information item. And we got a couple of ways that we can go there. This issue predates our trial projects with pilot permits and all of that. The issue of jet boat use on the Rogue through this park started well before that. So laying that out, we can do it in a business meeting, just in the brief time that we have there, or we can put it in the context of a workshop on commercial use of state parks. Those rules were adopted quite some time ago, when the only way to really conduct a transaction was to do it in person and hand somebody a check or cash. I'll put an explainer about what check and cash are into the workshop. But we do have an internal team, thanks to these comments from this community, that's going to be looking at commercial use, where the bounds are. We talk a lot about the economic impact of state parks and how important that is. This is part of that. But how do we stick to our mission and accommodate that within limits? Where are those limits and how do we set them? I think that kind of workshop, and then we can dive into what's happening at Tubel in that context. If you would find that helpful, we'll get that on the calendar.
We could do that in April.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. That's nice. I want to know Tubel, history, what we've done, what we haven't done, and why we've done it. You can put it in a document to us. I just need more information on this.
Understood.
Okay.
Yep, will do.
I think I know quite a bit about our commercial enterprises, but Chris, what I'm seeing is staff talking up here. I would like to get down to this level and this park and this issue with more information for me, because this isn't going to go away. And even after I'm gone, it isn't going to go away. And we have 2 new members who really need to start here and build up. That's what I'm looking for. Thanks.
Understood. We'll tell the tale of Tubel specifically from the very beginning of the issue right up to today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Grasty.
Thanks, and kind of follow up on Commissioner Berger there. I'd like this specific, it'd be handy and helpful in this, but also like a broader picture. My memory says parts of the Rogue is wild and scenic, and there are some other issues that follow underneath Oregon parks that I'd like to understand as we look at this whole picture too.
Okay, thank you. We'll include that in our write-up. And while there are sections that are state scenic waterways, other than that, our involvement on the Rogue is limited to state park properties, not to river use rules or those sorts of things, but we'll capture all of that in what we send you. We do have other parks along the Rogue, including Kendall Bar, which is quite close by.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can wrap up public comments.
Are there any other questions, comments? Other than that, we're going to wrap it up and move on to our next agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for navigating that for us in terms of the number of speakers and making sure we're all staying on time. So really appreciate that. All right, moving on, we're going to go to the director's update. I think we have Katie up first for the legislative update.
We do. While Katie's getting settled in, I will let you know I'm super excited to see Melissa and Betty here. We do think that we are going to be in line for our third because we are down one more commissioner. We think we'll have one more coming on in the next round. I'd love to tell you when that is, but I've learned from past practices I'm not going to say because I will be wrong. But I just wanted to let you know that I think we have the green light from the governor's office that they are advancing a candidate forward for our vacancy.
That's wonderful news. Have a full commission.
And Caleb's coming to help Katie.
You think I should?
I thought you had it. You
yesterday,
picked the
I thought
right
it was
one.
good.
It was perfect.
Share that, right? Yeah.
Share. Can you start your presentation?
That I did. Okay, there we go. Now I'm good. Okay. Chair Hill, Director Assumption, members of the Commission, Katie Guthier, here on agenda item 3A, the legislative update. I am here to give you an update on the 2024 legislative session that is in its 4th week of 5, so nearing the end. This is the short legislative session. There were 288 bills introduced, and as an agency, we tracked about 50 of them. And Sunny Die is March 10th or sooner. So that's the end of the legislative session. And as I said yesterday, OPRD has no position on most of the bills. But I did want to give you an update on a few that we have been tracking and where they are. So the first one, House Bill 4067, is an electric micromobility task force. Initially, the bill, we were named as one of the members of this task force. Micromobility are the all of the one wheels, electric skateboards. It's also electric assisted bicycles, but it's everything. In an amendment, we are no longer a named participant of this task force, but it does call for state agencies to participate. It'll be a local park and rec person on the task force. This task force is going to help develop statutory definitions for these devices, and most of it's around transportation, but it also includes recreation. So it'll help to identify some of the safety issues and help. We are looking at going into rulemaking around devices. So this task force will help us to know what the parameters are for rulemaking. And then the second one, and that bill has passed out of Transportation Committee and is in Ways and Means. It's in Ways and Means because ODOT will staff the task force. So there's a $200,000 general fund ask. But it did pass out of the Transportation Committee. The second is House Bill 4103, which is around electric assisted bicycles. It creates a change in the statutory definition for electric assisted bicycles that would have the class system instead of Oregon's current definition. As we look to do rulemaking around electric assisted bicycles, having a class system will help our rulemaking. And that is on the House floor today for a vote. And it went through joint transportation, so it can go directly to the House and the Senate without going back to additional committee. The next bill is a new word for everybody to practice, and I'm going to try. The American Semi-Quincentennial is the 250th birthday of the country. It's in 2026, but this creates a commission that is directed by the Oregon Historical Society, but OPRD would have a seat on it, as well as the Heritage Commission, and it's to set the state's commemoration of the semi-quincentennial, and we would be a part of that commemoration process. So it is on the Senate floor today for a vote, and then we'll go to the House. because it also went through Ways and Means. The next bill, Senate Bill 1576, includes recreational immunity. It has some other things, so it doesn't say recreational immunity in the title. It's about civil law. But the recreational immunity piece is a very short-term sunsetted address to the Fields case out of Newport. It would add a definition, or add to the definition of recreational purpose, walking, biking, and running, and then make some changes to improved trails, but only for 2 years. It sunsets on January 2nd of 2026. And this is to allow for an interim work group, not a formal task force, but a work group to consider broader changes to recreational immunity. We've talked with Senator Przansky, who's going to lead the work group, and he would like OPRD participation in the work group, and we would like to be involved with a broader discussion about recreational immunity. So that passed out of the Senate and has a hearing today in House Judiciary and a work session scheduled for Thursday. So positive thoughts. And then the last one is the budget bill. It has not had a hearing. There is a hearing tomorrow in Capitol Construction on a different budget bill that doesn't have anything listed as an amendment. So we continue to watch the budget bill to see what will be put in around budget rebalance and our acquisition budget request. So those are the ones we're watching. There are a few others that may have an impact on the agency, but that's what I have right now, unless there are questions. Great.
Good work.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate the update and welcome future updates on, of course, all of these, but recreational immunity in particular, as we track not only what is happening with the current effort, but what we see on the more distant horizon. So I appreciate those updates very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
So thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. All right, moving on. Let's see. We have best practices next, it looks like. Agenda item 3B.
Yes. And that will be Chris.
Yeah. Chair Hill, Director Assumption, Chris Howell, the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Here in agenda item 3B, your best practices report. This is an action item. So every year, as required by Department of Administrative Services, you do a self-evaluation of 15 mandated best practices and one optional that the commission has layered on top of those. You do a self-evaluation, you take a survey, submit responses back. We summarize those. Where there are questions or ideas, concepts that need to be discussed, we typically do a workshop on those. We didn't do one this year. The responses didn't show any ambiguity, and all the measures show as passing. So once again, that's a self-evaluation, and that report is attached to the brief. What happens with this document is it's reported as a key performance measure back to, it goes back into our budget, which goes to the governor and then to the legislature, and it gets reviewed at that level during the biennial budget setting process. I should note before I ask for adoption that while the commission's goal is to, in your own personal opinion, pass each one of those measures, not passing one, there aren't any real consequences to that other than it's an opportunity for self-reflection and improvement of both commission performance and the direction you give us as staff on how we support you and do our job inside the agency. So while that record is unbroken since we started measuring this many years ago, I just wanted to remind you that it's okay for us. It's no real danger if we're not passing some measure at some point. It would just lead to a work project probably further on down the line. But that said, the report is in the brief. You can see the tally of the votes there, and I ask for your adoption so we can include it in our key performance measures report.
I'll move adoption.
Wonderful. Commissioner Berger, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dewar. Any discussion or comments on the report or best practices?
This is Steve. Because the time period is July 2022 to June 2023, our new commissioners may abstain if you choose to from this particular vote.
Yep, good point.
Good flag. Thank you. And thank you for adding the abstention column this round too. I think that's helpful. Despite nobody.
It took me 2 years to remember to do it. So.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, the question is on the adoption of approval of this report. So if those in favor can say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, we have it. The ayes have approved it and it is approved.
Liz, just for record keeping, can you tell us who made the motion and who second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Berger made the motion.
Okay.
And Commissioner Dewar
seconded. And then we had 2 abstentions.
And 2 abstentions from Commissioner Cribbins and Commissioner Izumi.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, we have item 4A, the budget lottery update with Rebecca.
Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, and members of the Commission. Rebecca Jasso, Financial Services with OPRD. I'm here to talk to you today about agenda item 4A, and this is for informational only. We received the March 2024 lottery forecast on February 7th, and you have that in your packet. And so the forecast does reflect a decrease in lottery revenue for the department of about $530,000 for the current biennium. And the department's 23-25 legislative adopted budget was built on a lottery transfer of $131,901,148. Since then, the forecast has increased by just over $5.5 million. The table below reflects the changes for the 23-25 biennium and the 25-27 biennium that we are starting to work on next. For 25-27, there is a slight increase on that one in total of about 200,000. So we're holding kind of steady on lottery funds. And yeah, that's the information. Anybody have any questions? Pretty simple today.
Doesn't look like it. Awesome. Thank you,
Okay,
Rebecca.
thanks, everybody.
All right. Now we're going to move on. I just want to take everybody's temperature. Should we take a short break for stretching and lunch and snacks right now? I see Commissioner Berger nodding yes. So how long?
She never says no to a break.
I never say no to a break.
We do 15 minutes. Is that enough time for folks to
grab something
and eat? And it's okay to eat while you're listening to. It's not a big deal. So why don't we take 15 minutes and we'll reconvene at 12 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Oh, he's got it.
All right, it's 12 o'clock, so if we can get everybody back on screen, hopefully everybody got a chance to stretch and grab some food.
I think we're back. Can you hear us okay?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Good. Sorry to keep it short, but we've got such a big agenda. We want to stay on task today. So I think next up, we have real estate, item 5 on the agenda, starting with Silver Falls State Park.
And Alice is there and should be able to come on.
I think I'm here.
I hear you. Hi, Alice.
Hello, everyone. Commissioner Hill, Director Sumption, Commissioners, Alice Beals, right-of-way agent for Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Here to talk with you about Silver Falls State Park and the Halt Road dedication. Forgive me for being slow at sharing my screen. Can you see this?
We can.
Oh, good, good. In going forward with activities on the Silver Falls North Gateway project, staff have been working with staff at Marion County regarding the proposed vacation of a section of road in this north area of the park. The road is known as Halt Road. The developed segment runs east and west through these lands. And there is also in the same area an undeveloped segment that runs north and south. It is their north-south undeveloped road is in close proximity to our Park Service Road that we also have in that area. In April 2023, I came before you and requested approval to grant easements to these adjacent neighbors that would need access should the county vacate Halt Road. We would still need to provide them access to these lands. Commission approved that. And as we went into additional discussions with the neighbors and the county staff on finalizing this, it was recommended that rather than granting easements to these neighbors, that OPRD request the county to accept this service road as public right-of-way, as a realignment of this undeveloped road that they have the right to build. Oh, sorry. The dedication would be a perpetual right-of-way for public street purposes. To meet the county's requirements, this realignment will involve the dedication of a 60-foot wide right-of-way. At the north end of it, we will need the road to turn west and end in a cul-de-sac. The location is this far west is based on the fact that these are wetland areas that we can't have that cul-de-sac in. The cul-de-sac is required element for emergency services vehicles turnaround area and required by the county. Staff are requesting the commission approve the dedication of this realignment of the north-south segment of the county's Halt Road right-of-way and allow the required turnaround area that's needed.
All right, thank you, Alice. Do I have a motion?
This is Steve Grastian. I'll make the motion to approve it, but I've got some discussion when we get to that point.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Grasty. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Go with Commissioner Dorr. I think he was fast on that one. So thank you. Any further discussion or comments or questions on this?
So
yeah.
I struggle with the term dedication. I'm not sure what we're dedicating. I understand the county may be dedicating this, but it seems a little strange for that word to be used in our motion that I just made. So maybe somebody can explain that.
We are dedicating a right-of-way to the county for a 60-foot wide public road. In some other non-county type situations, we might call it an easement. We're giving them an easement for a public way. We are dedicating this to the county. We're not requiring them to do anything more with it other than to use it for a dedicated public road. Fits into their rules and their business, is my understanding. And I'm not, roads are not my area of expertise, but that is my understanding of it.
Alice, thanks for that. Steve, I'm curious, do you see any issue in that terminology in this? That's kind of what I was looking for. Is there something we're stepping into that we could use a different word?
Commissioner Grassi, I'm not familiar enough with it to see the issue. I'd be happy to look into it. But at this point, I'm not uncomfortable with the use of the word.
Madam Chair.
Excuse me, go ahead, Commissioner Berger.
If I could comment, it seems to me that this turnaround area for emergency vehicles suits us as well as the county, because it's going right into areas that we're going to have use. And I really like the idea of I've become very aware of emergency vehicles and access in rural areas, particularly wooded rural areas. So I really like this idea very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion on this? All right, if no further discussion, then the questions on the adoption of the motion to approve the dedication of a realignment of a segment of Holt Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, so the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valor.
Thank you.
We will double check and clarify the appropriate wording. And if it ends up being easement versus dedication, we will, with that motion, we'll go ahead and record it appropriately.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Banks of Vernonia Trail.
Chair Hill, Director Sumption, Commissioners, Ladd Whitcomb with Real Estate Services. And as fate would have it, I am asking you to approve a dedication also, so I can answer your previous questions. Before my time here at OPRD, I was with ODOT, and so I know right of way, be it easement, be it dedication, be it fee titles, sort of inside and out. If it helps, let me just share a screen real quick. Waiting for it to come up. There we go. So, and I wasn't going to pull this up, but since I had it, I thought I would. What we're giving Washington County here, and what Alice is working on too, is really nothing other than an easement. But when we give that easement to the county, they have the ability to dedicate that to the public. So that's all that's happening there. So this is what a dedication deed looks like. And this is one that I'm going to ask the commission to approve. So the property we're talking about here
Ladd, can you slow down just a little tiny bit?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, perfect. Okay. You're good.
And sorry, I wasn't planning on having that on my screen, so now I have it over top of some some other things I was going to share, but
I think our attorney got as much as he needed out of it.
yeah, I'll just go ahead and keep talking. Washington County has been a longtime partner of ours on the Banks Vernonia Trail. Back in 2009, OPRD and Washington County worked together on something that Washington County got funded as a transportation enhancement grant. And that allowed them to improve this Highway 47 Sellers Road intersection that they've got there. Sorry, I'm trying to find some pictures. There we go. And with that, we were able to, they moved the original alignment of Sellers Road. We granted this to them as their easement for Seller Road. And then we had this available to use as a trailhead. And back then, we dedicated a little portion here. Well, besides dedicating all of Sellers Road, we dedicated a little portion from, this is called Lot 600, and this is called Lot 3100, so that they could put in sidewalks for pedestrian use. And that benefits us just as much as it benefits anyone there, because this is our BV Trail or Banks Vernonia Trail trailhead at the south terminus of that trail. What they're asking for now, if you can see this, that's 41 square feet. They need to do an ADA upgrade so that this is available and usable as ADA crosswalk. This is a little area that's going to be crosswalk 2, and it's approximately 483 square feet. And then in yellow here is a permanent slope easement. And if you look back here, that's not anything we're really doing anything with. It's just, here's the old track bed and it slopes down to here. So they just need to be able to manage this slope so that none of it affects their intersection at all. And all that I am asking today is that you vote to allow us to transfer this little bit of extra needed right-of-way at that corner to Washington County.
Great, thank you, Lad, and thank you for that information on dedication too. That's helpful. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Grasty?
No, I'm going to cogitate on that for the next month. So
with more legal questions to AG Shipsy. All right. Well, let's go ahead. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve dedicating this property to Washington County as described.
Thank you, Commissioner Doerr. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cribbins. Is there any further comment or discussion or questions on this? Hearing none. The questions on the adoption of the motion, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it and the motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have the next item as well.
Great, and this is 5C, the Brian Booth State Park.
Yes, and by your leave, I'm going to roll right into that instead of reintroducing myself, unless that's needed for the record.
I think that's fine. Do we have any public comment on this lined up, Chris?
Yeah, Chair Hill, Director Assumption. Larry Silverthorne was signed up, but he is not in the meeting. So I'll let you know if he does show up. And Lad, if you wouldn't mind, just for my OCD, go ahead and introduce yourself. That way this item stands on its own if anybody ever wants just it. So.
Perfect, and thank you for that information. That helps me. Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission. My name is Lad Whitcomb. I'm in real estate services at OPRD. The item that I'm bringing before you is 5C, Brian Booth State Park, McKenzie River Trust donation that we would like to accept there. McKenzie River Trust has acquired land adjacent to the southwest boundary of Brian Booth State Park that they would like to donate to OPRD. This property affords access to a conifer plantation that's not accessible by vehicle from any other part of the park. And OPRD has a need to manage forest plantations for healthy growth, recreational setting, habitat, and fire control. This property gives us the access we need to effectively manage this otherwise isolated portion of park. I'm actually going to share my screen again. This was brought before you in the last commission meeting, and we put off voting because I had just taken this over from Cami and didn't have the necessary information to share with you at the time. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. So this in red is the part that McKenzie River Trust would like to donate to us. Access for that comes up this road, and then we can get from this road, and I like to call this the Tiger Stripe area. This Tiger Stripe area is a conifer plantation that we need to be able to manage. We can't really get to it from any other part of our park because of this ravine. I should have run that up a little higher, but this ravine wraps around and comes back down here. That's very steep, and you can't get a vehicle from over here into there. And then it comes back around here. So based on that, this property affords us access into here for maintenance, inspection, anything we need to do there. The concern from Mr. Silverthorne, as well as some of the other neighbors, is that this might appear to the public as, hey, a new entrance to the park. This will never act as an entrance to the park because you can't really reach any other part of the park from here. In the last couple months since I met with the commission on this item in November, I've had several conversations with Mr. Silverthorne. I have visited this location, spoke to some of the other neighbors, and Mr. Silverthorne and I have worked through the process of making an amendment to the access agreement that gets us in here. And that amendment simply states that we can use this for operational purposes to inspect and maintain this property, that it's not for public access, but we can also use it for emergency services in case anybody's hurt in this area. We can get into that as well. I did an original draft of that and I sent it over to Mr. Silverthorne and his council. They looked at it. They had a couple of changes that they wanted to put together. So I made those changes and they have since reviewed it. And I believe we're okay on that, but that's something that we would have in place if you vote to allow us to accept this donation. That would be something that we would have in place by the time of the closing. The property from McKenzie River Trust to us would be the amendment to easement between Silverthorne, and we would be the new owners of this property. So between Silverthorne and us, it would get recorded basically simultaneously, but it has to happen immediately after this gets recorded because that's what would make us the owner. I am open to whatever questions you have. and would ask that if we'd successfully answered your questions, that we receive a vote to accept this donation.
Thank you, Lad, and thank you for all the work you've put into this and for your work on communicating with the neighbors and trying to address their concerns. Do I have a motion to move to approve the acquisition and authorize the OPRD director to sign all necessary instruments effectuating this transaction?
So
Then I will second. And also,
Commissioner Grasty got to it first, and then I've got a second from Commissioner Dorr. Any questions, comments, further discussion on this?
I just also want to express my thanks to Lad and other staff for continuing to work with the local community as persistently and earnestly as we've seen. It's really been helpful navigating this. Thank you.
Great. There's no further discussion. The questions on the adoption of the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it and the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lad.
Nice work, Lad. Thank you.
Okay, I think the next item is an informational item on Tubbs Springs. Tabitha?
Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, Commissioners. My name is Tabitha Henriksen. I am a property agent with Oregon State Parks with your real estate services group. I am bringing you today an informational item in regards to Tubbs Springs State Wayside. Let me get you really quickly a map here. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Not the most exciting of maps, but Tubbs Springs is a state park site that's about 40 acres. It is 18 miles east of the city of Ashland. It is home to a section of the historic Applegate Trail. There are trails, a restroom, a tiered stone tubs with some cascading water here. Because this site has been in use for much longer than the 1939 acquisition by the state park system as a rest place for travelers and locals alike. Most recently, Jackson County has been managing this property under an agreement put in place in 2001. But we were approached by the Bureau of Land Management last year in regards to potentially incorporating this property into the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument, which was established in 2000 and expanded in 2017. Tubbs Springs is already used by recreators and visitors to the monument, as you can see on these maps here, where it is indicated within the monument. Let's see. I apologize. I was trying to figure out how to get those a little bit bigger for you because I know that they are very tiny maps. But as you can see, the national monument ownership there in the shaded color, and it is kind of square in the center of that larger area that is part of the monument. The monument is full of valuable resources akin to what you will find at Tubbs Springs. But there will be hopefully better access to both staffing, equipment, and resources to be able to serve this site if managed by the Bureau of Land Management. And we believe that it will serve the property well, but BLM and OPRD staff are still researching and performing due diligence on this to consider whether this is the appropriate transfer for Tubbs Springs to protect that property correctly. Is there any questions about this one? No decision today, just information for you.
Thank you, Tabitha. I have a quick question for you. On that first map that shows the lot boundaries, I'm wondering, is the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument contiguous with this parcel? Are any of those parcels we see around the perimeter then part of the BLM lands?
They are not a direct owner. However, they own this parcel here. I don't know if you can see kind of to south. So
Right.
they are close, but I believe that's the closest ownership to this physical piece of property.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So thank you, Tabitha. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Nice work. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 6, community engagement, starting with the County Opportunity Grant Program.
Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Michelle Scalise. I'm the manager of the Grants and Community Program section at OPRD. I'll be presenting the next 2 briefs in your packet. Agenda item 6A is the County Opportunity Grant Program 2024 Grant Awards. The County Park Assistance Advisory Committee met virtually on December 14th, 2023 to evaluate and rank 5 County Opportunity Grant applications with a total request of $1,404,228. And we had just over 1,419,000 available to award. Based on the evaluation criteria, the committee has recommended funding 4 of the 5 applications for a total of $1,058. The remaining available grant balance of $317,000 will be carried forward to fiscal year 2025 grant cycle. The committee did not recommend funding the project that ranked 5th, as it did not score well enough to be funded at this time, as it is not ready to proceed in a timely manner. The committee and staff have made a recommendation to the applicant to improve their proposal and encourage them to reapply in the 2025 grant cycle. What I'm requesting from you today is seeking approval to award the County Opportunity Grant request as detailed in the spreadsheet in your packet at the amount of $1,087,158.
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Berger moves for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Grasty. Any further comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none, the questions on the adoption of the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the next piece, all-terrain vehicle grant recommendations.
Thank you. For the record, again, my name is Michelle Scalise. I'm the manager of the Grants and Community Program section. So item 6B, the ATV Grant Subcommittee met January 26th and 29th, 2024 in a hybrid meeting in Salem and via Zoom to evaluate and rank 16 grant applications requesting a total of $794,750. The program has had just over $2,600,000 available to award in grants for this biennium. So the balance we had left at this meeting. Of the 16 applications, 5 were for operations and maintenance, 4 were for law enforcement, 7 were for development, emergency medical services, and safety education. All 16 applications are recommended for funding. The action I'm requesting today is commission approval for the ranking and distribution of ATV grants as recommended by the ATV Grant Subcommittee.
Thanks, Michelle. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
ATV grants, sorry.
Thank you.
I will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dorr. Any comments or discussion on this? Yes, Commissioner Berger.
Yeah, I just have to comment on how much we're awarding and how much is being spent on law enforcement in this area. It is a little disconcerting. I understand improvements and maintenance and lots of other things. It's just unfortunate that so much of this money has to go for law enforcement. But I understand it's a reality.
Thank you.
Commissioner Berger. Yeah, and most of this is for equipment for law enforcement. We do require law enforcement to patrol our altering vehicle areas, which are vast. And so in this case, you will see that most of it is for equipment, like ATVs and things like that, that they need to patrol and continue taking care of those areas. But I do understand your concern, and it's noted.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further discussion, then the question is on the adoption of or approval, sorry, for the ranking and distribution of ATV grants. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the committee members who put a lot of work and effort into coming together and ranking these and looking through the applications and working with the applicants to make sure their applications are even stronger for the next round. So we appreciate
Thank you, Chair Hill, and I will pass your sentiment on to the committee.
Thank you. All right, Heritage, Chrissy. We haven't seen you in a while.
She's making her way.
Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission. My name is Chrissy Curran. I am the Deputy Director in charge of Heritage Programs. I also serve as the Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer for the state. I have in front of you item 7A. It's information only. Every February meeting, we like to present you with sort of a list of what we've accomplished. And I always find it very heartening to see this list. Obviously, we are at a point in our lifespan at Heritage Division where we have too much work for the number of staff that we have, but we still get all this stuff done. Not sure how, but my staff is amazing. So I'm not going to read these out for you. I am here to answer any questions you might have. I'd also like to call your attention to the several staffing changes that we've experienced in the last year. We've lost some excellent staff to other state and federal agencies, and they will be working with us on the other side of things. The SHPO is sort of like Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So they will always be part of the family. Mary Beth Grover retired, and I want to thank our colleagues at OPRD Archaeology, and also Michelle's group for lending us Stacy Scott and Karen Litvin on a rotation. I love to see all our divisions working together to accomplish our mission. And we have 3 new folks, and probably the next commission meeting, you'll see a few more. So, and then one last item, I just wanted to remind you that the Oregon Heritage Conference is coming up. It is, the dates are April 17th through 19th in Forest Grove. So, and that includes the Heritage Excellence Awards, which are always, sort of like the Heritage Oscars. So lots of tears and joy and
Yes,
good stuff. So it's worth signing up for. And if you have any questions at all, I'm here to answer them.
Commissioner Berger.
I have one. Did you get me here, Madam Chair? Chrissy, I had not heard of the Oregon Chinese Diaspora Project. Is that ours? Are we partnering with somebody on that? Is it tied to Kamwa Chung? It sounds like a really interesting project.
Commissioner Berger, the Oregon Chinese Diaspora Project is out of Southern Oregon University. It's Chelsea Rose is leading that long-term project down in Ashland, Jacksonville.
And we're partnering as part of the.
We've dipped in at several intersections in that project with grant funding and staff assistance and so forth. It's going to be coming forward as a National Register nomination pretty soon.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a good one. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.
Chris, before we go, did we lose Commissioner Cribbins?
Oh, yeah.
I don't see her. Thanks. We'll text her and see if we can help her get back in.
All right. Yeah, this next one is information only, so we should be okay to move on to accessibility design standards with Tracy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. My name is Tracy Johnson. I'm a construction project manager in the engineering group, and I'm here to talk to you about our accessibility standards. So, let me just share my screen. So everybody can see that? You can hear me?
We don't see your screen. It is a little hard to hear you, at least here in the room. Oh, we see your screen, I think. There you go. Got that.
Good?
Yep.
All right. And I'll try and speak a little bit louder so that you can hear me better. So, launching into the presentation. My screen is very slow to advance. Come on, there we go. So, this project is something that started in, the origins were in September of 2021 during the legislative session. There was a House bill that was passed, House Bill 2171, that mandated that Oregon State Parks develop statewide accessibility design standards for use on our projects, and also that could be a resource for other agencies to use. They specifically identified certain types of facilities that they wanted us to include. It was a project that arose out of other work that had been going on in the governor's office with the Office of Outdoor Recreation and some other accessibility considerations that have been going on around the state. And it also fed off of our ADA transition plan, which was a project that OPRD undertook in 2021 and earlier to evaluate all of our facilities and identify accessibility improvements that were needed in our parks. And those improvements are to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act. So initially evaluating, and we have a lot of old facilities that are, far older than ADA. And so looking at them and identifying the needs and prioritizing timeline to correct those deficiencies within the system. So as this project kicked off, it started in early 2022. We hired a consultant to help organize community listening sessions. We had 4 listening sessions with a large group of individuals with lived experience from the community. We also had worked with other state agencies. We worked with the Marine Board, ODF&W, Forestry, and others to have an advisory working group, as well as the listening sessions. We worked with a couple of different consultants over the course of the project. And through all of that, that started to provide the baseline for information to help us develop these standards and make sure we were really hearing the needs from the community and translating those into what we wanted to focus on as we developed our standards. So there were some big takeaways that we heard from that, from those listening sessions. In general, more information and better quality information so that people could make informed decisions about where they want to go and understand what they might experience. Braille, including Braille on maps and trailheads. Having more van accessible parking spaces. So while we have accessible parking space requirements, van accessible parking spaces, more mini space.
Tracy, we really can't hear you. It's gotten worse.
Interesting. Okay, I will lean forward. Caleb's telling me to lean forward, so sorry if my face is zooming a little. Can you hear me better now?
We can, yes.
Okay, I might need to get an external microphone for this laptop.
No, it can't, yeah. It's going in and out, it seems
Yeah,
like.
it's going in and out is what the challenge is, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, do you want me to step in?
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah,
Do you want
Helena.
me to step in, Tracy?
Sure, if you would like to, Helena. I can't hear how bad it is. So if Helena and I have co-presented this many times, and she can more than handle the conversation.
That might be easier because it is really hard to hear you, and then it makes it really distracting to get content, I think. So if Helena, if you can jump in, that'd be fantastic.
Sure, no problem. Okay, Tracy, I'm gonna just trust that you're gonna forward the slides. So as Tracy was saying, a large part of the conversation took place with the community, and the community provided feedback on what they'd like to see improved in the state park system. Tracy talked about better information on the website so they can make informed decisions on plans to visit the state parks. This also included adding Braille to the trailheads and maps and kiosks and signs. More van accessible spaces. Tracy alluded to the fact that we do have accessible spaces, but an improvement is needed to add more van accessible spaces because that then adds an access aisle where people can, exit their vehicles and enter into an actual removed curb to get to a trailhead. Other things noted here, wider trails, more room for maneuvering. So a lot of times with the baseline of ADA, it's 36 inches wide, 3 feet. That's good for one person who may be a wheelchair user, but we don't think about 2 people who are wheelchair users side by side and or somebody with a caregiver or a service animal. So wider trails to allow for traffic and for more space for the caregivers and family members alongside. More stable and paved surfaces, a given, making sure that the surface level is ground firm, the surface is firm and stable, and minimize that vertical grade change so that the slope isn't too high and that there's less obstacles. In the nature, you have tree roots that are going to take place and it's going to happen. So being prepared for that and allowing for those things to take place and kind of balancing where the trail is and how we can remove those obstacles and still maintain the integrity of the growth. Additional resting spaces and benches, and improved beach accessibility. Next slide. And so as Tracy mentioned, we have worked alongside the ADA, so the Americans with Disabilities Act, which provides for access to programs and the same equal opportunity access to anything the state park offers to the public. We must also offer to people with disabilities. Also is the Architectural Barriers Act, which is more guidance on the facilities themselves. And so how we have to adhere to the building, the structure, and anything that has a federal nexus where it is funded by federal grant dollars or is on federal lands must abide by the Architectural Barriers Act. And we lean into the Architectural Barriers Act because it's best practice. Again, these are the minimum baseline requirements. OPRD's new accessibility design standards is saying that we're going to go above and beyond the minimum. And we'll do that with existing facility upgrades and any new facilities that were put in place. Next slide. So the document itself. We broke the document into 4 sections. We have a project summary that really goes over what we just covered in this slide, in this presentation. We have an introduction as to why we're doing the work, the significance of it. We have the design standards themselves and an appendices with all of the resource information offered to everyone. I just want to talk about this image really quick and the significance of this picture. So this, many of you may already know, is Silver Falls State Park, North Falls Trailhead. This is the first waterfall viewpoint that is wheelchair accessible. The young lady in the power chair, her name is Antonina. She's lived in the Silverton area for 25 years. And she was so excited to be a model for this picture, for this new design standard guide,
but more so, she was excited to see her first waterfall at Silver Falls since living at Silverton. So if that doesn't like really get to your heartstrings, you know, it's just significant, the work that's being done in the state parks and the commitment from the agency. Next slide. The document itself is really broken down to highlight the topic that we're going to cover. Again, this is the first iteration. There will be multiple others. And the design principles that as an agency we're trying to adhere to, as well as the required standards in blue there that you'll see. And this is where we worked with a consultant to cross-reference not only the ADA and the ABA, but also Oregon structural codes to make sure that we were in compliance with all the different sets of rules and regulations. And then the standards themselves down below. So it really does break it down in a nice outline form. Next slide. We also add imagery and key elements to provide kind of a guidance of what you can do in the state park system. So the image on the right is of a campsite and an example of what can be done in order to ensure that you have not only an accessible campsite, but above and beyond those minimum requirements. So these graphics really help the different park improvement project construction managers, as well as park managers, to plan their improved areas and their design. We're incorporating surfaces and transitions. Anytime you go from one surface material, such as the parking area, which is usually pavement or concrete, onto the picnic area, you have a different transition of surface, and that is significant to a person who uses a wheelchair or has any type of mobility device. So we're really trying to focus on ensuring that the transitions are minimal, less than a 1/4 inch. We're also looking at improving our site and trail information and sticking to the universal design practice, which is just making sure that anyone at any time can benefit from these sites. Next slide. The facilities that we've included in this guide, this first iteration, is the site arrival points and parking. This is called an accessible route. So whenever somebody first enters a state park, they come into the parking lot, and you really want to make sure that whatever the intent of that park is to provide, like a viewpoint or a hike, a trailhead, whether there's a picnic facility, a water access, you want to make sure there's access from point A to point B to point C throughout the entire scope of that park. And so this guide will cover that, as well as routes of travel and circulation, site elements. So what do we have offered at the site, whether it's a campsite, day use area. We also have cabins and yurts included in this, water access, and assembly areas. In this first iteration, we do not include beach access, interior building spaces, playgrounds, or other recreation areas. Beach access is going to take a lot more work, and it's a big focus. Oregon beaches, as you're all aware, Mother Nature has her own set of ideas. So we have to come up with some creative thinking and partnerships when it comes to beach access. Interior building spaces really does have its own set of rules. So we wanted to make sure we were adhering to the outdoor recreation space. And playgrounds as well has some other requirements. And we wanted to make sure that we heard the community's initial kind of charge of what we needed to cover and what the House bill asked us to cover. So we got that first. Next slide is the last slide. I'll open it up to any questions, and hopefully Tracy's mic is good and she can jump in if need be. Tracy, I hope I did you justice. Usually that's your section and I cover the first part, but whatever. You know.
Great teamwork. Liz, I think you're muted.
I was just saying how I got goosebumps seeing that photo. So you missed that, but very, very exciting and really great work. Thank you for sharing all of this. And I'm sure the other commissioners have comments too. So I'll leave it to them to say something more eloquent, but that photo was really special to see.
Vicki was over here nearly in tears because she was on the commission when we were going through blackberry bushes to even think about what that might look like. So those of you that were there that day, remember that is that site and that is what we had envisioned. So it's pretty special to see that.
And I'd like to comment, it's about time. This project is really worthy and exciting, and I know there'll be lots of tweaking over time, because things change, mobility devices change, and then the whole physical space we work in changes. So I know this isn't the final word, but it's a wonderful first step at trying to bring some semblance of uniformity and standards to an area that is desperately in need of it. I wish you great good luck with the beach access one. I know it's real high priority for the list for people who have disabilities to be able to access the beach. But I'm glad you didn't let the difficulty of that stop you from getting to the things that also need work. And I really love this document. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thanks. I mean, this is amazing. It's 25 years ago now, but I had a partner who'd lost both his legs, and so he's wheelchair bound, and it was dumbfounding the places he couldn't go. He ran for county commissioner, and two of us packed he and his wheelchair up 2 flights of stairs so he could speak at the junior high in Burns, actually. And the beach access is a question, because this guy served in the Coast Guard for a long time, and he loved the beach. And I ended up buying him a Honda Odyssey, one of the first ATVs, but you could sit down in it, and he could go almost anywhere. And actually, he could stand it back up on its tires when he tipped it over on his side. So, it's a challenge, and everything you're trying to do, more power to you.
Commissioner Grassi, Commissioner Izumi, hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to say that this is today's my first meeting, and this packet that we received is my first introduction to the commission's work, and I loved reading this document. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. One is that I learned so much. I spend a lot of time in parks and hiking and exploring, Silver Falls State Park. And I'm embarrassed to say that I hadn't really considered a lot of the things that were pointed out in this document. Just things that seem obvious, after reading through just such thorough work, things like uneven pavement, for example. So thank you very much for putting this together and working so hard to include the voices of people with the lived experiences. And then I just also wanted to say that I really appreciate the accountability. As my first entree into this type of public service, I think that a lot of people who aren't engaged in this way don't really see how a bill turns into action. And seeing this just really makes me feel proud to be part of this commission. And just really grateful for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. I'm Helena Kesh, and I'm with the Government Relations and Policy Unit. I'm the agency's ADA coordinator. This work couldn't have been done without the support from Director Sumption and Deputy Directors JR Collier and Matt Rippey. I mean, it was really significant work. And as Tracy stated, we had other consultants on board, but Tracy was a great lead in getting us to the finish line. Her expertise really did help us make sure that we were crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's. So it was a really great collective effort, but a lot of support from the agency and the community at large. So we appreciate where it's at, and we look forward to the next iteration of it as well.
And isn't it really nice that Commissioner Izumi is like, look, a bill becomes action. Like it was just simple, right? Tracy,
Yeah,
like Helena, Matt.
So simple.
Well, and I think, you know, I don't know if you can hear me, but one of the things that was interesting about this was that the House bill gave us 12 months to complete it. Anyone who knows how, I mean, we worked hard on this and it took us 24 months because it's just the reality. It took us 3 months to get somebody under contract to help us start the project. But, you know, we stuck with it and we had a lot of support internally. We had a lot of eyes internally to help review and catch things and make sure that it was the, you know, and we know this is the first iteration.
Sorry, Tracy, we totally lost you. You slowly fade out and then you're gone. We're going to get you another laptop or a really good headset because that was invaluable, but it did take a long time. But I would also point out here that this will be like a life's journey, right? This work will never, as Helena mentioned, and the landscape that we have, it is going to be constantly evolving. And as our legal counsel here pointed out, that every one of us is like one step away from some mobility, right? So it's super important work and we'll continue to do it.
Temporarily mobile.
Well, thank you.
Great
Thank
work, you guys.
Tracy.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we've got Beverly Beach paving contract with Matt.
Nicely done, Matt. Ooh, promo.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that I got it on my first click.
Caleb's a little shocked over there too.
Chair Hill, Director Assumption, members of the commission, good afternoon. For the record, Matt Rippey with Oregon State Parks. I'm here today seeking approval for agenda item 8B, which is Beverly Beach State Park Campground Paving Project. With a not to exceed amount of $1 million. We're anticipating that the bids are going to come back in somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million. This project is kind of running in parallel with a general obligation bond project that is taking place at Beverly Beach, which is replacing all of the utilities in the campground. That was approved by the commission in June of 23. This is as I mentioned yesterday, because we've been seeing such an increase in costs associated with these projects, we're using some of the policy option package funding in the paving category to help kind of finish up this project. As you can see from the diagram, it's going to pave kind of the back half of that campground. And to Tracy and Helena's presentation, you can also see that we're adding 5 sites for improved accessibility. Again, kind of that going above and beyond. So it'll be the first kind of major project that we're starting to implement some of the changes from the accessibility standards. I'm just going to jump down to a couple of pictures to show you this is kind of current conditions within the park. And then this is even more current conditions with some of the utility work that is going on there. And then fortunately, John Sievers, one of our construction project managers, put this presentation together, and he showed some kind of after pictures from La Pine, but what you can kind of anticipate seeing at Beverly once the project is done. And I believe that our September commission meeting is at Beverly Beach State Park, and this project should be complete by then. And so hopefully we'll be able to take a tour through the park and see these. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
My question, Matt, is where are we on Beverly Beach? You said by September we could visit. Is it going to be open this summer?
Yes, the utility work I think is going to be kind of buttoned up in April. So there may be portions of the campground that stay close to the summertime in order to get this paving done. But I think they're supposed to be done with the paving by July, so that in September everything will be back wide open. But there may be portions of the park closed during the summertime.
Yeah, just for our new members, Beverly Beach is just a signature coastal park that was in terrible shape, and we didn't have the money to do what needed to even start what needed to happen there. And these go bonds have been monumental, and with the popularity of campgrounds at the at the coast. I just can't overstate how important this work is. And it seems basic to keep up a park like this, but it's harder than you would think. And this is one of those just signature parks.
Really special
I'm
places.
excited we're going to go there.
Good. Yeah, it'll be.
I
It'll
have
be great to
actually
see.
camped there.
And I would add too, for our new commissioners, we will have kind of an update on those general obligation bonds within the next quarter. So I think we're trying to do those quarterly. So we'll be able to bring you some more information around specifically what those projects are, where we are in terms of process and those kinds of things. But the coast definitely got a fair chunk of the general obligation bond funding because of the weather, the amount of use that we see over there. And the popularity of those parks. We really, I think Beverly, Fort Stevens, Nehalem, Cape Lookout were some of the big ones over on the coast that we're targeting some of that funding towards.
I'll move approval.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Berger. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Commissioner Dewar. Is there any further discussion from anybody? Seeing no further discussion, the questions on the adoption of the motion to approve construction for this construction contract at no more than $1 million. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we also have Beverly Beach State Park, but restrooms.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. My name is James Robinson. I'm a construction project manager here at OPRD. I'm here to actually present a number of restroom projects, but we're going to start with Beverly Beach, the D-Loop campground. This is action item 8C on your agenda. I appreciate being able to follow Tracy and Helena talking about accessibility and Matt talking about Beverly Beach. That leads pretty well into my presentation here.
And right now, James, like the most important job is like restroom replacement. So you're the coolest guy on Zoom right now. So.
Oh yeah, I'm going to show you some good pictures. Don't you worry about it. Just a little bit of background here. Last year, OPRD worked with a design team to put together a standard restroom building design. This design, it's a flexible building using single user restrooms that can include 4, 6, 8, or 10 rooms, kind of oriented in pairs or a 2 by grid. So these individual rooms can either be a standalone toilet room, individual shower room, or a family room that would include a toilet and a shower, as well as a changing table. So this design is going to allow OPRD to kind of move towards providing a more inclusive environment where people don't have to choose between a men's or a women's room. Now all of those individual rooms are going to be available to anyone, regardless of their gender identity. This should also help alleviate some wait times, so you don't have to have just 2 lines queuing up on 2 sides of a bathroom. So I'm probably going to sound a little bit like a broken record on these projects, but because they all utilize this design. But just as I go through them, I think it's important to remember how just the incredible amount of traffic that these rooms see every year. I know it's not really what people tend to think about when you picture a state park, but it's something that you're definitely going to interact with. I think we've all had an experience of visiting somewhere only to find the supporting facilities like underwhelming. So we'll leave it at that. So by replacing these restrooms, we're going to be enhancing the experience of a massive amount of visitors around the state. As for Beverly Beach specifically, let me share my screen here. Let's see. Can everybody see this okay?
Yep.
All right. So Matt already showed the image of the park, but we're talking about the D loop, which is the second loop right here. This restroom was built in 1984. As you've seen in your brief, the coastal conditions have been pretty hard on this structure. It's chosen as a candidate because it's of its high annual use and just building fatigue. Let's see. So we've proposed to demo the existing building and replace it with a new one, utilizing the standard design. It'll include 10 individual rooms. So 4 toilet rooms, 4 showers, and 2 of those family rooms that would include both. This project's also going to include an improved maintenance path to access the restroom, as well as a new propane tank and location for reasons I'll cover here shortly. So existing conditions, this is the existing restroom here. You can see it's surrounded by wetlands and some pretty small paths. So accessing this building is not easy. You can see here, we're going to demo the entire building, as well as this path here leading off to the east. And here's the existing propane tank that we'll see in another picture right here. You can kind of see it's hugged up against the wetland and kind of half falling down that hill. And here's a view of that restroom from the path that we'll be demoing and creating a maintenance path from. So one that would be accessible to a vehicle. Let's see. So more reasons to replace this thing. Acrylic roof panels, they are not what they once were. A lot of leaks. They're dangerous and you can't walk on them to repair them. Existing finishes in here have just reached the end of their life and have made it incredibly difficult to maintain and clean. So just time consuming and costly. And finally, this building just has virtually no ventilation. So it can get pretty mildewy in there when you have a lot of showers running. So here is the site plan for the new building. It's oriented in a similar way. You can see we've been able to stay out of most of the wetlands, or stay out of the wetlands here thus far. We do have a wetlands consultant on the project. They've been kind of able to help us navigate that issue. OPRD archaeologists and natural resource specialists are also obviously part of the team that have been supportive of this project. The campground is currently under construction, as Matt showed. They're replacing the electrical and plumbing supply lines. So this restroom will have brand new supply lines to it. And they're also providing a kiosk that'll have the electrical panel on there. So that'll be part of the project that's currently happening and not part of this restroom replacement. Let's see, here's the design of the restroom. So you can kind of see here, it's this 2x2 design where you have 4 toilet rooms across one side, 4 showers across the other, and then these combined toilet and shower rooms with a large adult changing station here and a children's or baby changing station on the other side. Here's some elevations kind of showing the design of our standard restroom building. On the end, you have the door to the maintenance room, as well as a couple benches and display boards. And then all of the rooms are kind of lined up across the longer sides. If I'm going too fast, feel free to tell me to slow down or back up. So we have construction documents completed. These were delivered to OPRD on January 31st. This project's on schedule to go out to bid in mid-April, looking at starting construction in mid-September. This is a policy option package project, and the budget is $1.2 million. So I'm requesting approval from the commission to proceed with the bid process, looking towards a construction contract. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Great, thank you, James. Do I have a motion that we can move forward on?
I'll move for approval.
Like, wow.
Okay, I think Commissioner Dewar got to it first. Do I hear a second though? Commissioner Grassi, awesome. Any further comments or discussion on this?
Yeah, I just would like to congratulate the man who pays close attention to bathrooms because boy, do they matter. Even though we really don't want to discuss them at great length.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief.
I would like to comment how awesome it is that changing tables are incorporated into these upgrades. Big time, as somebody who has changed multiple diapers on the floor. It's not hygienic or fun or anything. And so
to see not only a children's changing table, but also an adult changing table to kind of address some of the other ADA issues that we were talking about. That's really cool.
Madam Chair, that'll be less important to you in 10 years. So.
I know. Don't worry. I've used, picnic benches and you name it. So
at some point it'll be more interest in the grab bars.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no further discussion, then we can go ahead and move to a vote. So all those in favor of approval of this construction contract, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. And I think now we're moving on to some more restrooms.
No worry, we got lots of restrooms.
Got lots of restrooms.
Yeah.
We're changing
Let's
table.
We
see.
were going to make sewer sexy.
All right, here we go. Once again, for the record, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, and members of the commission. My name is James Robinson, Construction Project Manager. This is action item 8D, the Peter Skeen Ogden State Scenic Viewpoint Restroom. So kind of moving right into this one. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. This is our site plan. So here you can see US Highway 97. This is the restroom right here that we're discussing right off the parking lot. One of the first things you see when you pull up on your way to go see the Crooked River Canyon. So this restroom was built in the 1970s, or 1970, I should say. Chosen as a candidate for replacement because of its high annual use as well. I mean, this is a rest stop on a busy highway in Central Oregon. And it's the site with a stunning vista that just sees a lot of people visiting. So let's see. So this project, we would be replacing the existing restroom with an 8-room design following the OPRD standard design. So it would have 8 individual toilet rooms. We will see a design for that here shortly. It would also include a new paved path connecting the restroom to the parking lot, so ADA accessible and wider like our standards call for. It'll also include a new electrical and information kiosk right there at the parking lot connection. So the panel would be right there, as well as new signage and such. So here's the existing building. You can see it has a paver path that goes up to it. So we'd be removing not only the restroom, the standalone drinking fountain back here, as well as the paths on the site. So let's see. It's had numerous repairs throughout the year, the restroom building. I mean, this is evidenced by a lot of just mismatched finishes and fixtures. It's difficult finishes to clean. You can see this floor, all these little 1x1 tiles would be just a nightmare to maintain. So that's why we're looking at replacing this one. Here's our new site plan. So you can see the existing building would be about this front half of the new building. So we'd be extending out kind of towards the canyon with our standard design. This building's on a septic system, and we have had it looked at by a septic consultant. They said it's functioning just fine, so we shouldn't have any problem hooking up this new building to it. Here's the new concrete path we would be installing as well, and the electrical kiosk right here at the parking lot. Similar to the last project, archaeologists and natural resource specialists are part of this team and have been supportive of moving forward.
James?
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you. Will you back up? What's the 2 boxes 4 and 5?
This is the septic tank right here. And 5, this would be the new electrical kiosk.
Okay.
So a kiosk that would hold the electrical panel for the restroom, so it could be shut off in the event of an emergency without having to enter the building. And it would also have a generator hookup. So it could be powered when the power goes out. You could hook up a generator to it. So right there by the parking lot.
The reason I asked, I'm going to tell you a year ago now, but that's absolutely the most frightening place I've ever been in the dark. I don't usually pack when I go from my car to the bathroom, but I did there. Just terrifying. There's people around, there's stuff to hide behind. It's bad. So I hope the new plan ends up with a better lighting. situation at night and not leave opportunities for folks to be behind and out of sight when you go from a car to a bathroom or restroom.
Yeah, so I can address that. Go ahead and back up here real quick. You can see this building as you come up from the parking lot. You do have these kind of alcoves that could provide a opportunity for bad things to happen. So the new design, doesn't have those. It's got your individual rooms that are lockable, and it does have exterior lighting. So hopefully we're mitigating some of those opportunities that you're talking about. So let's see. Yeah, so just looking at this one more time, you see these two family rooms would be here at the kind of the front end of the building. You'd have those changing tables, and then more rooms to the back, drinking fountain on each side, so it's accessible from not only the parking lot but also the rest of the park. Looks very similar to the other one. Obviously, it's the same design, just a little shorter. Let's see, the construction documents, again, they were completed January 31st. We are on schedule to put this project out to bid in mid-April. The goal to start construction in mid-September. Fortunately for this project, we don't have to worry about campground closures or that 6-month lead time of needing to notify the public. We can just simply provide temporary facilities, so the construction schedule can be a little more flexible. The budget for this project is $800,000 of OPRD POP funding. We've also been able to work with OTIC, the Oregon Travel and Information Council. They provide the day-to-day operations on this restroom, and they've committed to an $800,000 dollar-for-dollar match. So our total budget for this project is $1.6 million. So thanks to them for stepping up to the table. So with that, I'm requesting approval from the commission to proceed with the bid process, looking towards a construction contract.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Berger. Do I have a second?
I second.
I think I got Commissioner Cribbins first. Okay.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Commissioner Grassi?
So I have a question for
Yes, please.
discussion on
Go
this
ahead.
motion. So that the handout that I've got says an approval of construction contract up to 1.3 million. Is it 1.6?
It's 1.6, correct.
Thank you.
That's a good catch. Thank you for
Sorry about
clarifying that. Okay. So any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and move forward on the approval of construction contract up to 1.6 million for this Peter Skeen Ogden State Scenic Viewpoint restroom replacement. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries and it's passed. Moving on to Silver Falls State Park Campground B Loop restroom replacement.
Alrighty. For the record, my name is James Robinson, and I'm the construction project manager here at OPRD. I'm presenting action item 8E on the agenda, the Silver Falls B Loop restroom. So here's our B Loop at the campground at Silver Falls. So we'll be discussing this particular restroom right here. This one in particular was built in 1987. It has it's chosen because of its high annual use. It's one of two restrooms that serve that two-loop campground. This is one of the most popular parks in the state, and this restroom is open year-round. It'll be replaced with a new OPRD standard design restroom totaling 10 individual rooms, 4 toilet rooms, 4 showers, and 2 family rooms. We'll also be including a new paved path, ADA path to the adjacent parking area for accessibility, as well as a new electrical and information kiosk and some minor septic tank repairs. So here's the existing restroom. You can see here, this is a kind of a corral that has a lot of infrastructure, plumbing, electrical that is and needs to be replaced. It's at end of life. Let's see. Here's the site plan kind of the restroom. This is the path that we'll be replacing with the ADA path to this adjacent parking area. This is that utility corral I was discussing. We'll also be replacing some of these site paths that are heaving and cracked from roots and just past.
Sorry, we're not seeing your screen. Sorry about that.
We have the pictures,
But we've got them in our
we've got the
packet.
pictures in our packet.
Oh, here, I will share the screen.
I know.
Sorry about that. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So yeah, there's a site plan I was talking about. So yeah, again, this is the path that we'll be replacing right here to this little parking area. So moving on, here's some of the interior finishes I was talking about that are just at end of life. Small tiles that are difficult to clean and maintain, high ceilings that are very difficult to maintain, and very little ventilation. And one last thing, this is the corral I was discussing that just has some of this really old infrastructure in there. So we will be replacing this one with a new 10-room design. It'd be kind of oriented perpendicular to the existing design. You can see this will be a paved path here, along with the electrical kiosk, kind of in a similar place to the existing corral. We'll be connecting to the existing sewer system on the site, performing just a few minor repairs to this septic tank here, adding a baffle. Let's see, we've been working with OPRD archaeology and natural resource specialists. Again, so far, no issues there. Here's the 10-room design, essentially the same as what we were looking at Beverly Beach, with the 4 toilet rooms, 4 showers, and 2 family rooms. And elevations that are identical for all intents and purposes. So again, construction documents have been completed. They were delivered on the 31st of January. We're on schedule for a mid-April bid and a mid-September start. The closure of the campground's been listed on the website, so the public can be aware. This is a policy option package project with a total project budget of 1.2 million. So I'm requesting approval from the commission to proceed with the bid process, looking towards construction.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Grasty. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dewar. Any questions, comments? All right, seeing no further discussion, the question is on the adoption of approval of the contract for replacing the Silver Falls Loop B restrooms, not to exceed 1.3 million.
1.2.
1.2. Okay, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Our last restroom discussion, and then we can all take a restroom break.
All right. So again, thank you to Chair Hill, Director Sumption, members of the commission. I'm James Robinson, Construction Project Manager. And this is action item 8F on your agenda, the Milo McIver State Park Campground Restroom. So I will share my screen for real this time. There we go. So again, we're discussing the campground restroom. It is the only restroom here that serves this campground in a incredibly highly used campground. This one was built in 1970, and our goal is to replace it with the new OPRD standard design. Again, 10 total individual rooms, 4 toilets, 4 showers, and 2 family rooms, including a toilet and a shower. This project will also include a new paved path connecting the restroom to an adjacent ADA campsite, which will be used for construction staging during the work. So it'll be replaced with a new path. And we'll also have a new electrical and information kiosk adjacent to the building. So here's the existing restroom. This restroom draws a huge amount of people, not a diverse section of people as well, just all along the entire I-5 corridor. It's a popular campground. The fixtures and finishes kind of show that use. They've reached their end of life and have become costly to maintain. The floor, especially similar to the last few restrooms, just a lot of small tile, a lot of partitions that have need to be repaired and replaced. We have a paver path that actually leads to the ADA site, and it's begun to heave from all the tree roots. You saw in the last picture all the trees that surround this restroom. So this is the path leading towards that ADA site that'll be replaced. These are also pavers here that'll be removed. So this is the inside of one of the restrooms. You can see, especially the shower area, not very accessible from the curb to the small areas to doors and things like that. Not the most user-friendly, and finishes that are needing to be replaced. Let's see.
James, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So what are you doing during the time that these are closed? Do you have porta potties, or are you closing the whole campground? What?
So in this particular case, the campground would be closed, the entire campground. The only one we would be doing temporary facilities at would be the Ogden Wayside. And that OTIC is organizing that. So here's the new site plan showing the new restroom. It's funny, it's actually almost exactly the same footprint of the existing restroom, so that worked out very well. Here's the new kiosk, electrical kiosk, and this is the new path that would come to our new refinished ADA site. This would be just replaced at the end of the project because we assume that when construction is using this as an access point, it'll need to be replaced because used by heavy vehicles and such. So one more item on the site plan. This is also on the septic system, and it's been reviewed by a septic consultant. So they said everything's functioning fine, and again, shouldn't have any problem hooking up to it. So they'll help us through the permitting process and consulting on that issue. Here's our 10-room design that you're familiar with our four, and then our 2 family rooms. And the same existing or the same new elevations. Similar to the last project, our construction documents were delivered on the 31st of January. We're on schedule for a mid-April bid as well as a construction start in mid-September. This is a $1.2 million policy option package project. So I'm requesting approval from the commission to proceed with the bid process and construction contract.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Clara wanted to make it. Thank you, Commissioner Grasty. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dewar.
Absolutely.
There's no further comments or questions. We'll go ahead and vote on this. All those in favor of approving restroom replacement of up to 1.2 million, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Those opposed can go somewhere else.
Sounds like you can go to the restroom and the porta potties. Sounds good. Okay. Well, thank you. The motion carries. So really thank you, James, for all your work on this. Very exciting to have new restrooms.
Thank you everyone for listening.
So exciting money to spend on this.
Yeah, for real. Well, why don't we take a 10-minute break before we dive into rulemaking?
We
Oh,
can
gone.
reconvene. And she's out. We'll reconvene at 1:40.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. All right. Everybody get their screens turned back on.
Back to work.
Oh, I think we all said that. You could, it's a good thing when you sit in unison.
Right?
You sound like the choir.
I'm not the only one groaning.
We feel like we're restrooms and need to be replaced. We've aged enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone is back in the room here, Liz.
Okay, perfect. Looks like we've got everybody back online. So we'll go ahead and start agenda item number 9, rulemakings. We're going to start with the amending park area and ocean shore rules. So Helena. Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Sumption, and members of the commission. I'm Helena Kesh, and I'm with the Government Relations and Policy Unit. And I'm here joined by Danny Padilla.
Hi,
Danny. Danny, introduce herself.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Danny Padilla, South Central District Manager and current Post Board Chair. Happy to be here, Commissioners. Thank you for having me.
And we are here to discuss 9A, adopt amendments to general park area rules to update the exclusion process. I will go ahead and share my screen. Just let me know if you see the actual presentation.
We can see it.
We can see it.
The correct one, right?
I think so.
Okay, good. Because there's like my display.
It looks
Great.
like Smith Rock.
Excellent.
Look at that.
I'm so excited to get that new visitor center there. It'll be awesome. Okay, so getting started. So these rules we're amending because we recently experienced a court challenge that highlighted that the existing rules were a little vague and too open for interpretation by OPRD staff. The suit was resolved with the agency's commitment to improve the rules' fairness, clarity, and due process. We created a rule advisory committee to initiate the update to the rule. And we included people from the mental health community, a couple of practitioners. We included attorneys, our own DOJ, and DOJ from the opposite suit. We included a park host, our safety manager, and district manager. We held 3 rule advisory committee meetings on June 28th, August 11th, and September 8th. And in these meetings, we discussed how to clarify the existing rule to ensure that when and if officers of state parks would use the exclusion rule, it's because somebody really commits a state park rule violation. There are multiple tools that rangers can use in order to ensure that someone's behavior is mitigated. But when all others are exhausted and a rule is violated, they can turn to the exclusion if necessary to really prevent a behavior from escalating, especially if it's endangering the safety of visitors, staff, or park resources. We really wanted to make sure that in that we provided clear information on the reasons for an exclusion and the length of those exclusion periods, that there wouldn't be a question as to why an exclusion took place or the length that exclusion would have on a person. Included the actual property or properties that the person would be excluded from during that exclusion period. We also wanted to make sure that the appeal process was included in the rules. We're looking to adopt the rulemaking changes to the existing OARs listed on the screen. And this also not only updates the exclusion rule and the appeal process, but it relates it over to the ocean shore state recreation rules as well. We opened up public comment period. And in the time frame that we had public comment period, we had 58 responses, with the majority of those in support of the exclusions overall. There were a couple of concerned responses about how implementation would look, and just opposing exclusions period. We had about 3 of those. Folks that were in support of the exclusions really were supportive of the safety aspect of an exclusion, and why would we enforce an exclusion would be for safety reasons. Others were happy to see the enforcement and wanted to support more. Others supporting the authority that the agency would take in order to do an exclusion. The due process was something else that a couple of comments came in on that were in support of due process. And training was one more in support of as well. So when we had the initial public comment review period, some of the comments that came in really weren't sure or clear about the appeal itself. So we decided to extend and reopen the rule and open up for public comment by really exploring more language to make the appeal process really clear. The appeal process is important so that if and when an individual is given a decision based on a behavior or a rule violation, they have the right to an appeal. We did not put a timeline on the appeal for this, and this was in response to some of the mental health practitioners' advice that the person may have experienced an episode or an episodic experience. And so when they have sought treatment and or needed, assistance, they can come back and request an appeal anytime during that exclusion process. So we kept that opportunity of appeal open. We also spelled out how the appeal would take place. So if the appeal is less than 180 days, it would happen at the local level of the state operations. And if it was 180 days or more, then that would be convened at the director's office and her delegates. So again, we really wanted to make sure that we were listening to and responding to the public comments that came in. So we extended that additional round of public comments prior to the rule adoption back in December. And I will leave it here for any questions that I'm sure Danny would love to answer.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that staff, I'll move adoption of amendments to OAR 736-010-0040 and 736-021-0040 to update the exclusion rules and appeals process.
Wonderful.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a second from
There's
Commissioner
more, you need
Brewer.
more?
Okay, we also need to pick up OAR 736-010-0015.
And yep, and
Go 2-0.
there we go.
you want me to read that again?
Yes,
Okay,
those are your rules.
okay.
Sorry. We were too short.
Okay, I will move adoption of rulemaking for changes
Amendments to
for amendments to OAR 736-010-0015, also OAR 736-010-0020, and OAR 736-021-0030, and OAR 736-021-0040 to update the exclusion rule and appeal process in park area and ocean shore state recreation rules.
and can you
I'll second that. I did, and I'm glad Vicky was the one who had to read all that.
And I further approve any scrivener's errors that are caught by
Esteemed council.
by council after the vote. Because he has found a
He has
couple of
several.
scrivener's errors, and they will be scrivener's errors that will not change any meaning or context for the rules. And then after I've moved it, can I make a comment?
Sure,
Yes.
of course. Thank you, Commissioner
Breath.
Berger. We have a second from Commissioner Dewar, and then Commissioner Berger, do you want to go ahead and make your comment now?
Well, I just want to applaud the people who've worked really hard on this. I also noticed, because, we get the little OPRD press thing, and the press misunderstood kind of what we were trying to do and thought we were just trying to kick people out of parks. And I'm surprised there wasn't more, because of the way the press, a couple of press reports came in. I was worried that we'd get a lot of totally inappropriate comments and people who didn't understand what we were trying to do here. So I'm kind of glad that was really the substance of the comments, and you seem to field them well. And I really appreciate you going back and looking at the appeals thing again. This is really important rulemaking, and appreciate the work that went into it, and glad we're getting through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Grasty?
So just a process question for Steve, for our esteemed council. This seems really fast for rulemaking, which I'm fine with. But have we missed any steps? This is anyway, my question.
Yeah, no, I think it actually took a little longer than we anticipated in the settlement with the court. We anticipated 10 months. It's been approaching 16 at this point, because we did go through a period of additional comment based on the first comments we received, and then allowed the public to comment on some of the adjustments we made, and included things that we had previously going to just include as a standalone staff only matrix for the how to determine the exclusion period. And we realized that was actually something that needed to be in the rule itself. So that was added to the rule, and no, so we've had a RAC, we've had public comment, we're good with the APA. We did our notice to legislators, we published in the Secretary of State Bulletin, and now we're ready to adopt.
Wonderful. Okay, seeing no further comments or discussion, the question is on the table, or on whether or not we pass all this stuff that Commissioner Berger just said. I'm not going to run through the OARs again. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. And do we have any abstentions for this one at all? All right, seeing none, the motion carries. So congratulations, great work on all of this.
Thank you, Helen and Danny. And Danny is also, as she mentioned, our chair of our post, where we do all of our training for all of our public officers. So it will be very useful and helpful to start integrating this into our training and retraining all of our staff. So thank you, Danny.
Awesome. All right, moving on to item 9B, amending the territorial sea plan, Rocky Habitat Site designation.
You don't know anything.
Okay, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, members of the commission, Katie Gauthier here with agenda item 9B. And with me is Laurel Hillman. And Laurel, if you're on, you want to introduce yourself? I can't see you, but I know you're on.
I am here. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hill, Director Assumption, members of the commission. My name is Laurel Hillman. I'm the Ocean Shore Resource Coordinator for Oregon State Parks. Nice to be here this afternoon.
Great. So we are here to request adoption of amendments to update rules around collection of marine plants and macroalgae to comply with updates on the territorial sea plan management designations. The rules were opened in September of 2023 after DLCD updated the Territorial Sea Plan Rocky Habitat Management Strategy. And at the same time that we looked at opening our rules around the Territorial Sea Plan, we also requested to remove a section of the rule that referenced a requirement for tribal members to obtain a tribal special use permit to collect materials as part of their traditional use. This was a provision in the rule that is outdated and no longer required by the department. So we opened public comment, and at the time we received one written comment and oral public comment during a hearing on behalf of the Coquille tribe, and it requested a number of changes that are in attachment C around the tribal collection of natural products. Following that comment, we sought additional public comment. So the initial public comment period was from October 1st to November 30th, November 3rd. And we had a public hearing on October 26th. The public comment was open for a second time, December 1st to January 4th. During that second public comment, we received no official public comment, but we did tribal consultation letters and staff-to-staff level conversations with tribes. And we did receive one request with a question from tribes. And the question really is around, in the initial rule language, we reference one statute for which tribes are allowed to collect materials. And the Coquille tribe would like it to be narrowed to only federally recognized tribes in Oregon, members from federally recognized tribes in Oregon. The current statute is for members of federally recognized tribes with a cultural connection to Oregon. And so the question was, what does our current policy say? And how is that interpreted? What do we do currently in the department? So currently, we are in the process of updating our tribal traditional use policy, and staff are meeting with tribes to have those conversations. We currently have the broader definition, and we do work with tribes that have cultural connection to Oregon. So we're suggesting that we did not have enough input from all tribes to make that change to narrow the definition. The staff recommendation is to leave the current statutory reference and wait until the tribal traditional use policy has been fully vetted, and then it could be reconsidered. The other changes that were requested by the tribe, we did make changes. They requested adding agreements, the allowance for agreements between the department and an Indian tribe, and then clarifying the changes in the language applied to seaweed, and adding that the collection of natural products by tribal members in marine protected areas. So we did add that language. I do want to call out that there is a caveat that's included in this attachment. The language was added to Division 21, but it would not make any changes to marine reserves that are in Division 29, because that's outside the scope of this rulemaking. And I see Commissioner Berger looking at me. Any changes only affect this division. So if I haven't confused you, our request is to adopt the amendments for updating the Territorial Sea Plan. And the only thing we're changing regarding tribal issues is to remove this tribal special use permit requirement.
So if I can ask, we're only amending this one section, just the and we're adding seaweed because plants and seaweeds are apparently different things. And okay.
Yes, and I would phone a friend with Laurel. That's a Laurel
the
question.
The seaweed thing. And then the tribal thing will be dealt with at a different
it's a different policy.
In a different policy amendment when we're doing it in a more holistic manner.
Yes, it would take a more
more
full vetting and consultation with all of the tribes.
And so it's really some definition changes in this and this removing of the permitting process for tribal is what, okay.
Yes.
With that, I think I can move approval of amendments,
It's up there if you need.
the adoption to adopt amendments to 736-021-0090 to update requirements on marine reserves. And amending territorial sea plan and rocky habitat site designations.
And throw in Scrivener's.
Good. And Scrivener's errors by and I will approve in advance any Scrivener's errors caught by our council.
I'll second that too.
Thank you, Commissioner Dora, for the second.
I know.
Any further discussion or comments before we move to a vote?
Barlow.
All right, well, that was easy enough. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to the question of adoption for the motion on put forward by Commissioner Berger. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it and the motion passes. Great. So thank you, Katie. Thank you. And Laura, thank you for your help too.
Laurel.
Now I think we just have reports left, so I think we could we do that on our own. Unless anybody has any comments or
one more. The reports, as long as everybody's good for the new commissioners, the reports are there. The reports, you read them ahead of time. If you have questions, we're always happy to answer them. Oh, Chris has got his hand up. I will pause and let him jump in.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just reminding myself to speak. In your reports, item 10B, Bravo, is Flores Lake State Natural Area Trail Investment Strategy. I just wanted to highlight that because it was a commitment we made to Curry County that we would develop that investment strategy as part of a land exchange we did a couple of years ago, where we got some county property adjacent to Flores Lake, and they got a undeveloped piece of state park property on 101. And I wanted to just give a shout out to Haley Cox and the rest of the planning crew and Joe Kennick, the park manager down there, for the work they did to pull that plan together. A lot of community outreach, a lot of creative work there at a pretty under the radar state park. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh, Chris, was there any public comment on that? Any of those reports? Because on 10B it says yes.
I don't have anybody registered to comment on the reports. No.
Okay, thank you. And then the last item you guys have for action is you have your draft commission calendar. And sorry, we were kind of waiting and making sure we were getting new commissioners, or if we were celebrating with old ones in their location, not old ones, but previous commissioners, sorry. And so what you have in front of you is obviously February is virtual. In April, we would go to Nehalem. And then in June, we would go to John Day, so you can see Kamwachung and see some of a lot of this is focusing in on the Go Bond project, so you guys can see some of the progress that's being made. And then Beverly Beach in September, and then Shampooey in November. And so assuming those dates and those locations work, always have the right to have to move locations for some strange reason, but right now I don't see any reasons we would need to. So I'm looking for approval of the draft commission agenda on this one.
Have I got the correct
calendar? You should have the correct dates.
Okay.
Are you looking for a motion to approve this?
You are, yep.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 commission meeting schedule as outlined in the handout.
Thank you, Commissioner Grasty. Do I hear a
Commissioner
second?
Hill, I think we will also have to check in with Commissioner Cribbins. I don't see her here.
She had to pop off for a meeting, call with the governor's office.
So just want to make sure the dates, because I don't know that I've confirmed them with her either.
Do you want us to hold off on moving this forward?
Yeah, so why don't we do that? Why don't we table it? We'll approve it at the next meeting, but at this point, we're going to assume that these are the dates and we'll plan accordingly unless she tells me there's some conflict and we'll need to go back out to your guys' schedules.
Okay, perfect. So do I need to make a motion to table?
I don't think so. Right?
Now that a motion was made.
Sorry, we're good.
Okay. All right, we're good to go. Thank you guys. Thanks for bearing with me on my first commission meeting chairing. It's not
Great
easy
job,
doing it
Sherry, especially
virtually.
hybrid. Yeah. I think almost virtually is
But
almost easier.
it'll get better, I
Hybrid.
promise.
Nice job.
Awesome.
We do need a motion to adjourn though. So if somebody would like to do that. Betty, would you love to be the first one to?
Adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Grasty for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay, stay here.
The very most important one of the day. Good job.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks.